PodAskew Podcast is a proud member of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I'm Swanson, host of the TV Tuners podcast. Every week on TV Tuners, me and my co-hosts, Keo Rain,
Swanson, I need water.
and Stairmaster, review the latest in TV and discuss news, trailers, and even find time to play some fun games. Right now, we're working overtime to cram as much TV knowledge into our brains as possible. Isn't that right, guys?
Swanson, we've been here for 24 hours. We need to get out of here.
Not until you answer who Norm is.
He's Fraser's brother.
Wrong. You get the shock. Check out TV Tuners, available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or any of the podcatchers of your choice.
To the PodAskew Podcast. I am CJ, and with me, as always, is my hetero mate Rico. What's up, man?
What's up, dude? Pottercast. So
Yeah.
we're podcasting a spell.
Yeah, well, Forgeticus.
Riddikulus.
I'll explain
Fuck
that
this.
one later. But anyway, yeah, I just for this one, I thought I would do something different because of the topic at hand this evening.
Yeah, you're an asshole, CJ.
Well, I was going to try to do a Snape impression, but I realized that was going to go very badly, so I decided not to.
Well, what were you going to say? I could do the same impression.
I was probably going to just do the intro as Snape, you know.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of PodAskew Podcast.
No, a little more of that sinister when he's talking to Harry specifically, like.
More like Mr. Potter,
Yeah.
our new celebrity.
Right, yeah, kind of like that. I was actually
Right.
watching him last night, because with yesterday being Easter and all, I decided why not watch Dogma, because that makes sense, you know.
Speaking of Easter, do you want to hear my favorite Easter joke?
Sure.
Okay. A man, his wife, and his mother-in-law are having a vacation, and they're in the Holy Land, so they're in Israel, Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly, the mother-in-law dies. Unexpectedly.
I know, I don't think you heard yourself. Go ahead.
The mother-in-law dies, regardless of whether anyone expected it or not. The morgue offers the man and his wife, look, we can bury her here for free, or we could ship her back to the United States for $3,000. So the man thinks for a second. He says, I think I'm going to have her shipped back to the States for the $3,000. And the morgue says, why? I mean, I'm just curious, but, that's such a big expense.
Sure.
Why? And the man says, 2,000 years ago, a guy died and was buried here, and he came back 3 days later. I just can't take that fucking chance.
Oh, man. I saw somebody post, it's not as funny as that, but I saw someone post yesterday that said, Happy Zombie Jesus Day.
I think there was, I saw that too. I think that was OC.
Oh, maybe OC, but that's not where I saw for sure.
I saw it on Facebook. So
I saw it on Facebook too, but I don't follow OC on Facebook. I didn't even know he had one. So
well, he has it under his actual name.
Okay, well, I'm still don't believe I'm connected to that. So
okay. Well, anyways, it may not have been him, but I saw the same thing. So maybe it's circulating and people are copying and pasting it.
Well, this one
pretending it's their own.
This one had no. He wasn't claiming that it was, but it had a picture. It looked like a twisted version of Michael Jackson from the Thriller video. Like he had the red suit with the jacket.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today.
True.
We are here to talk about something you've been wanting to talk about, I think, since like the third fucking episode of PodAskew. It's been
since then, there's been like 2 other fucking movies, or at least one other movie.
2. I think they both came out after we started.
Did it? Well,
yeah.
I think Fantastic Beasts, I want to say, came out in like 2016.
Maybe.
Maybe 2017.
I'm on it as we speak. Unfortunately, I can't do it the way I want, but yeah. Let's see. Fantastic Beasts. And where to find them? There we go. Not that one. You're right, 16. So we started it in 18. So
yeah. So one Harry Potter film has come out without being explicitly Harry Potter.
Right. And we'll get to the Fantastic Beasts movies later because we're gonna.
Right.
I don't know that we're gonna do.
We're gonna sort of do this. I think we're gonna sort of do this in order,
as chronologically as we can get, But in typical PodAskew fashion, I'm sure we'll hop around a bit.
As we start, there is something to point out. We're gonna have differing opinions on certain things, and it's not like he and I are going to disagree, although we might disagree on certain things. We might agree on certain things. But for the fact that I've read the books.
Yes.
He has not.
No, I have not. I actually... So, we'll get into something that has been a running topic on PodAskew, and that's the... CJ doesn't like things that are popular and tends to avoid them at all costs. And that did happen with Harry Potter. Like, I was at a point where I was like, I'll never watch that shit. Like, just never.
Or I'll never read that shit, is what you're
Well, no, the read was never going to happen. Sadly, I fell out of reading years and years and years ago, like long before Harry Potter was even a thing. But
I will say, man, it does kind of spark like the imagination. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
I did love to read, but I know of a lot of people, a lot of kids and a lot of adults that had fallen out of reading, and Harry Potter actually kind of helped.
Yeah,
it was a chance for parents to read to their kids, and the parents were just getting just as obsessed.
No, for sure. But the problem for me using Harry Potter to get as like a gateway, if you will, is that having already seen the movies, it won't spark as much imagination because I'll probably be trying to. I know it's different. I'm not arguing that it's verbatim, but do you know what I'm getting at? Like I'm sure I'll start picturing the movies. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that like one day I was sitting around with Deb, and it was a Saturday, and it was shit weather, like terrible weather, like you don't want to leave the apartment, whatever. And I think it was HBO was running a marathon. Like they ran 6 of the 7 movies.
There's 8.
Or okay, then 7 of the 8. I'm sorry.
Okay.
They ran everything but Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Okay, so 7 of the 8.
Yeah. And so we sat down and watched all of it. Like, we started and just got through. And by the end of Deathly Hallows, it was still early enough for me to go to Best Buy and buy the 8-movie collection so we could watch the last one.
Nice.
Well, because I figured if I'm going to buy it, I'm not just going to buy the one fucking movie. I might as well buy the set. And I was able to get the set on Blu-ray, I want to say for like $25 or $30, which I didn't think was terrible.
That's insanely cheap.
Yeah.
I've seen collections like that. It's usually at least 40. At least 40.
Yeah, Best Buy is really good about catching deals, and I think there must have been some. I think Grindelwald had just come out on DVD. We were talking about when it came out, but I think not Grindelwald, but the first Fantastic Beast. Or something. Like there was something with that like they were tying it in, so you were getting it. Like they had a sale on the Harry Potter.
It may have been the play that dropped.
Maybe, like I don't know, but there was something that that they were selling it cheap for a reason to like entice people to buy, and so I got all 8 of them for, like I said, like $20 or $30.
Yeah.
So, and we watched Deathly Hallows Part 2 and whatever, and you know what, I found myself enjoying it. Like the first one, I was kind of like, and then as it got later, and we'll discuss this in detail later, as you know, it gets darker. It gets substantially darker as you get to the latter movies. And, me being a dark motherfucker, I found that interesting.
You appreciate the sequels more than the first 2, I would imagine?
Well, no. You know what? At the time, yes. But now I would tell you that I'm not going to do numbers because I'm going to get them out of order for sure. But Goblet of Fire is probably my favorite at this point.
The movies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this will be interesting. That's one of my least favorites.
I know. I saw you tweeting. And then for me, it probably goes right into the first one for me in terms of favorites. So like it's that one, and then the first one,
Really?
Yeah, and then
I think I have a different opinion because visually they're all great. Visually they are all fantastic. Even the first two, which are more quote unquote kid friendly, they're more lighthearted.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's Chris Columbus. I mean, the guy, knows how to write and direct for children. I mean, he wrote The Goonies.
Okay.
He wrote, I believe, Gremlins, which employs both darkness and child, and bullshit and lightheartedness. He also directed the 2 Percy Jackson movies, which were not well received because
I liked the first one. The second one wasn't very good.
I know, but my point is that they did not really follow the subject material, and that's a big thing that moviegoers love to bitch about. Their favorite book is adapted into a movie, and they're like, "Oh my god, they left out so fucking much."
Right, but and I'm not trying to pivot the conversation because we could easily spawn off on what I'm about to say for 3 hours, and I don't want to do that. But like, how the Marvel, the MCU movies are pretty different from the books. The roots are close, but there's a lot of changes if you go through them.
And for 99% of it or 95% of it, it's done very well. Where they'll change just enough where you're like, okay, I see it from their angle. Right. I could go along with that.
But I'm saying, oh, no, go ahead, buddy. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, all right. So because we can still, like you said, we could talk about this particular subject forever, and we will when we get to like the third one, the Prisoner of Azkaban, that and Goblet of Fire. Those are the ones that have like done some of the biggest changes. Okay. You haven't read the books, so you can go into this being like, hey, it all makes sense to me because I don't know any better.
Sure.
But for me, it's like, fuck, dude. Like, there's a whole thing.
Right.
A whole bunch of things.
To be fair, Deb tried to educate me a little bit. She did, because she has read the books.
Right. And she's a fan.
She is a fan, absolutely. So she did try to teach me a few things, and it's not that I didn't pay attention, but like, I am not a fan of if you're trying to watch a movie and someone like stops every 2 seconds to tell you something that, okay, well, that didn't happen in the book, or this happened in the book, or you know what I mean? Like,
right. I hear that.
Yeah.
I've done that. I do that if me and the other party have seen the movie.
Right,
so it's not new.
Right, but at the same time, and she didn't do that on the first viewing. That story I told, she did not. But when I was reviewing them for this, that happened, and I hadn't seen them in so long by that point that I needed to kind of like watch them again, if that makes sense. So.
Well, let's start at the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're British, it's Philosopher's Stone. If you're American, it's Sorcerer's Stone.
Right.
Do you know the reason for that?
I believe we discussed it once because I think Henry brought it up and you talked about it on air, but I don't recall.
It was basically like her editor basically said, we don't think that American kids are going to be interested in something that's full of philosophy. Let's call it sorcerers instead, because it's all about magic. And she, at the time, was releasing her first book. She was, trying to just not be homeless.
Right.
And she was just like, all right, fine. She was just wet behind the ears as a writer and didn't have any say for the most part. And went along with it. It's the same reason why her pen name is J.K. Rowling instead of Joan Rowling, because she doesn't have a middle name. They invented the K, invented one because they thought that little boys would not read a book series written by a woman.
Yeah, I'd heard that, but I mean that's not the first time they've done. Not even the sex thing, the sex change thing, if you will. But I mean just the making it more appealing to the mass audience. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, George R.R. Martin,
sure.
blah, 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 blah. There's all these weird fucking little abbreviated pen names. But anyways, so Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, and they even had to do that for the movie. There were parts where they would have to record the line and say Philosopher's Stone for the UK theatrical release, and then Sorcerer's Stone for the American release.
Okay.
They had to keep doing that for that whole movie.
Well, so they basically shot it twice to a degree, or at least scenes.
They shot scenes twice, yeah. I mean, there is probably like they had to go above and beyond to just appeal to.
There was another movie we
audiences.
talked about where they did something like that. I forget what it was. It wasn't Harry Potter. It was something else where they had. I forget what
movies
it
will
was.
frequently do that for edited for TV shit.
Yeah, no, that wasn't what I'm talking about. They weren't sure about the title of the movie while they were shooting the film, so they shot two different things and then they used it so much. I forget what it was. We talked about it, but it wasn't.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It wasn't Harry Potter. It was something completely unrelated, So
I don't know. So the first one, I gotta say, when I first dove into this years ago, see, I didn't read the books when they came out. I think I was like 5.
Before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of the movie, there's one thing. There's a couple like overarching things I wanted to mention from the series that I wanted to applaud, at least from the movie perspective.
Sure.
Is because you sometimes see this doesn't happen, but they kept the same actors through the entire fucking series, with one exception, and I know it's one of the Weasley boys, and they got the Mad Eye's son to play him, and I can't remember.
Domhnall Gleeson.
Okay, but that's the only one that changes that I'm aware
obviously
of.
apart from Dumbledore.
Well, yes, but that's death. If he hadn't died, it probably would have been the same guy. But I'm talking like I'm more focusing on like your Harry, your Hermione, your Ron, the whole Weasley family, basically, the brothers, and then even some of the supporting cast like Draco. Not that he's supporting, but you know what I mean. But like Draco and Neville, and all those guys.
But there were a couple times where I think even like Emma Watson considered not coming back to play Hermione around the 5th one.
Okay.
Because she was just like, I've been working consistently, nonstop, and it's the same fucking character. And she's like, I have enough money where I don't have to ever work again in my a day in my life. And then she said she just couldn't bear anyone else playing Hermione apart from her.
And the only reason why I bring it up is there's another trilogy I've seen that's not a known trilogy. It's not even worth getting into, but they made 3 movies over 5 years' time, I want to say. And all 3 movies have 3 different cast people for the same characters.
Which one?
It's called Atlas Shrugged. It's based on the book by Ayn Rand.
I know of it. I haven't seen it, but
I've seen the first 2, and when I realized they changed the cast again, I just didn't have any interest in seeing the 3rd one.
I mean, in terms of a cast that, for the most part, you're right, is very, very, very consistent. This cast has done a very good job at being 90% perfect for the roles. Like, this is some of the best casting based on a source material, period. Because we can't go to, like, Harry Potter. We can't go to, like, Star Wars, because Star Wars didn't start off as a book or anything. When they make a character, it's like, okay, well, clearly that's good for the character because we don't know any better, unless it was based on like a later adaptation of a book, and then they add a character to that. Then Disney took that character, then completely fucked with it or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like even the 3 kids, for the most part, are pretty good. The one that is probably the most different is the kid who plays Ron, who's not a kid anymore. He's about to have a kid himself.
Right.
Rupert Grint.
Okay.
Because Rupert Grint, while he was a fine Ron for the most part, doesn't visually kind of look how he's supposed to be in the book. He's supposed to be way taller, and he's supposed to have like a longer nose. He's supposed to be covered in freckles, and his hair is actually supposed to be red-orange, not sort of orangey blonde, which is sort of how he becomes later.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, I feel like, again, I didn't see the descriptions in the book, so I would have never known that, to your
right.
Ron point. But I mean, I just to stick with the cast, and not try to, like, for example, the one that sticks out for me is Neville, because he went through like a massive growth spurt from like, I want to say 4 to 5 maybe, or 3 to 4, something like that. And
they still uglied him up.
right, because I've seen pictures, and he's actually a pretty decent looking dude. Like,
Dude, he's very good looking to the point where like everyone's like, dude. Now it's a term when someone like, ugly, goes from an ugly duckling, so to speak, to
yeah.
like it's now being called like a Neville, or that kid Longbottom, or he aged, he wizard perfectly, where
That's
it's like
funny.
he went from this chubby kid with buck teeth and big fucking ears. They actually would like put tape to put the ears forward so he'd look big, like a fucking British Alfred E. Newman.
Right.
And now he's like ripped beyond, like he's super muscular and he's very good looking, and yeah, Longbottom is a thing, man, where people are like, "Oh, give me some Neville."
on that same note, very quickly, and this comes from Deb, so this isn't even me being a male chauvinist or just a typical guy, but like Ginny Weasley grew up real nicely as well. She was just very plain Jane. She wasn't ugly, but she was very plain Jane, and that's
I mean, I thought she looked fine for the role and everything. But they really did a mistreatment of her character in the movies, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know enough about that. But anyway, all right, so getting into the first movie, though, because I know you want to do that. I just wanted to say that first, because to me, that's an overarching thing. That's not specific to any particular film. That just kind of sticks. Mm-hmm. I guess one other thing I should say is that, ironically, I saw Draco Malfoy, the actor, who's Tom Felton, I think it is.
Felton.
I was close.
Yeah.
Before I ever saw any of the Harry Potter movies.
The Borrowers.
No.
No?
He's on 2 seasons of Flash from the CW.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
And so...
I thought you were talking about, like, years
No. I'm talking
Harry
like
Potter.
I just saw the actor before I ever saw him as, like, a kid. Because by the time he's on Flash, he's in his 20s, if not early 30s. Because Deb pointed out to me, and I looked it up to back it up, is he's the oldest of the kids when they started shooting the movie.
Really?
Yeah, he's the old, by like maybe 6 months or a year. Like it's not like he's like 15 and the rest of them are 10. Like it's not like that. But,
right.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a funny story about when he was auditioning. I think he auditioned for Harry as well. I mean, everyone auditioned for Harry for the most part. That was the most coveted role for a child actor at the time.
Sure.
I think the only thing that would probably come close to that would maybe be, I mean, maybe not for a child actor, but for like something to do with like Star Wars, like Rey, for example, would have been like a fucking coveted ass role. Because
the first Harry Potter was in 2001, correct?
Right. Yes.
So I mean, that's only a couple years after. So you really could think Anakin, the first in Phantom Menace. I mean, it's only a couple years earlier.
Yeah. That's a good point. So,
but yeah. So and actually to that same topic though, the first time I saw Daniel Radcliffe was not Harry Potter as well.
What'd you see him in?
Now You See Me 2.
That was the first Daniel Radcliffe movie you saw?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's delightfully insane in that fucking film.
Yeah, it's actually, I really love those Now You See Me movies, but that's a whole other discussion for another day as well.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about Daniel Radcliffe for a minute. I mean, he in terms of progressing as an actor, from a child actor, I mean,
sure,
he really stands out. I mean, there are some movies where he's just, okay in the Harry Potter films, where he, like the first two, you can be like, well, he's a kid.
Sure,
he's a kid, but he's still an actor. He was still like studying theater and everything.
He still carried the weight of the film, and I think he did all right.
Agreed.
I mean, the most successful acting-wise kids from that film, by my knowledge, are Tom and Daniel Radcliffe.
Tom isn't really well. Tom did some great like Flash work, but I would say Emma Watson has got a pretty decent career.
Does she? Because maybe I'm just not seeing the stuff she's in.
She was in a movie recently with Tom Hanks called The Circle. It was sort of a sci-fi, like Eagle Eye type of movie where like everyone can broadcast.
Oh, I think I didn't see it, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it's okay. She's great in it, and it's just kind of like it's a great premise that kind of like doesn't really deliver as much as you want it to, and
Sure.
it's okay. It's an okay film.
Yeah,
You see Tom Hanks sort of being the closest thing to a quote unquote antagonist that you've ever seen.
because he never fucking does that.
That's what I'm saying. He's a
Yeah.
shrewd kind of businessman who's like, "Oh, of course I'm on your side," and then you're like, "This motherfucker's got something."
saying. Speaking of Tom Hanks, very, very quickly, my mom actually is one of the, because it's been a running joke on this show that nobody's seen this fucking movie, but my mom actually saw Welcome to Your Neighborhood.
A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Or Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, yeah.
Right.
And she
saw
said,
it.
what's that?
I saw it.
Oh, but you've made the joke then that nobody ever saw the fucking movie. Like, it
Right.
came in
And
way
then I
nobody
went and
saw
saw
it.
it. I'm like, oh, well, I get it. I get why no one saw this fucking movie.
Oh, you didn't like it? She liked it. So, anyway, well,
I liked it, but at no point watching it did I think Tom Hanks was Fred Rogers. I
Gotcha.
could very, very aptly see that's Tom
Hanks. Yeah, I gotcha. And
He tried his damnedest to fucking do a Fred Rogers, but it's just like, nope, that's fucking Hanksy.
But, you want to talk about adaptable actors, and we will get to the details on this, but fucking Gary Oldman is Sirius Black. I mean...
First off, it's great casting. But here's the thing that I think I kind of preferred the idea, based on my knowledge of the books, Gary Oldman, I think, would have been a better Lupin. I didn't really like the guy who played Lupin. The other...
Lupin the werewolf?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I didn't really particularly think David Thewlis as Lupin was a very good choice. He's not at all what I envisioned. And then after kind of watching them again and sort of diving... Well, I haven't even gotten to the third book yet when I'm rereading them. I always kind of felt he was more casual and cool, and then Sirius Black was infinitely cooler. So
Well, sure.
casting Gary Oldman was fine. I just kind of think that, find someone who's cooler than Sirius Black to play, cooler than Gary Oldman to play Sirius Black, have Gary Oldman play Lupin was sort of how I went. But now I'm fine. I kind of get that why David Thewlis was cast.
Well, and nothing against that actor, but if you really wanted to go by your logic, you know how you do that easily is you have, in my opinion, you have Gary Oldman play Lupin, and then you have like Johnny Depp play Sirius Black. That would have been...
And that is actually kind of how I envisioned it. I think I was kind of envisioning Johnny Depp being in it because as I was reading the books, despite the fact it's from Kentucky, Johnny Depp plays a lot of British characters.
Well, because he's one of those actors, and I'm sure this is what you will appreciate him. He can do that voice change very, very well. He can put on multiple accents as needed.
He's a very good mimic too.
Yes,
he does really decent impressions. And we'll get to Johnny when it comes to Grindelwald and all that shit. But
yeah.
But there's other great casts for that set the tone. I mean, they're not as flashy, but like the actors that played Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia.
Yes, I've seen
perfect.
I've seen both of them in other projects, and I'm trying to remember. I've seen him in a bunch of projects. Like the one that sticks out for me is way, way older than Harry Potter, and that's King Ralph. He's in that movie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's one of Ralph's like attendants. Like he's not,
He had a cameo in Pirates of the Caribbean 4, where he plays the king. He plays the king in the beginning when Jack Sparrow's dragged into the throne room.
I could see that. I it's been a while since I've watched that particular one, so I'd have to go back and see it again. But yeah, that one stunned me because he's like.
Well, he's passed, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know that. But when he was alive, he was the. I'm gonna make a bold statement. And you tell me if you think I'm right. But he's the British James Cromwell.
Yeah, that's a fair. I think his name is Richard Griffiths. I think that.
I think you're right. Yeah, a
fair assessment to call him the British James Cromwell. A very good character actor with a lot of like
that everybody recognizes. Like you're like
right.
I've seen that guy everywhere. Like
right. I would agree. And Fiona Shaw as Aunt Petunia is nothing to slouch at either. I mean,
no. I
haven't seen her in a lot of other things apart from one, and it's really funny. She plays the the fourth season's antagonist, or the fourth season's antagonist of True Blood, and she plays a witch.
Okay,
Which
there
is
you go.
really which is funny.
Right, of course.
And she does it really weird, like she does it in like this really kind of constipated Southern drawl, and she kind of talks out of the corner of her mouth. Like it's a really weird performance, but it works. The kid who played Dudley, Harry's cousin, was great. He actually shed all his baby weight, his baby fat throughout the series, where they wanted to bring him back for like this. There's a very brief scene which they kind of cut out, which was really sad, at the beginning of Deathly Hallows Part 1, where he's kind of dropped his animosity towards Harry and goes up to him to say goodbye, because that's when the Dursleys are leaving, and so Harry can, so they can stay hidden and be safe from Voldemort, because Voldemort will definitely kill them. Dudley goes up to Harry, and he's like, I don't understand. Why isn't he coming with us? And Mr. Dursley's like, well, he's a pain in the ass. We don't fucking need Harry. Fuck you, Harry. And he goes, and Dudley goes up to him, and he says, I don't think you're a waste of space, and holds out his hand to shake it, shake Harry's hand. And Harry just kind of looks at him like, thanks. And it was this real, genuinely nice scene, and they cut it the fuck out. And really
we're gonna get it. We're gonna get into that relationship, because that whole thing with the parents, or not parents, but the aunt and uncle, really irritates me, which is probably the point. But and
that's the thing, is that you'll know more if you read the books.
Right.
But I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, and I'm hoping that we will. Just getting to Fiona Shaw for a minute, because she's been in a couple things that I've seen. So I've seen her in a few more things than you did, apparently.
I think she was. I know she was in Catch and Release, right?
So I was going to point that out. Yep, she starred with our guy Kevin. Now I actually have not seen Catch and Release, but I know she's But
Kevin's great in it.
I've heard that.
Kind of it, though.
Yeah, I've heard that. She's in Three Men and a Lady, or Three Men and a Baby. No, Little Lady. That's what I thought. Yeah, she's in that one.
The Three Men and a Baby.
Right, which is the first time I ever saw her. And that's where I remember her the most from. But she's also
I've never seen that one. I've always seen the first one.
And she's in the Avengers, not MCU Avengers, but the Avengers with Uma Thurman and Ralph Fiennes,
who is also going to be talked about in this episode.
Correct. And that's the other thing, like, the who's who of British actors are in this fucking series, for real.
Well, that's because J.K. Rowling insisted. Only, like, and there are minor exceptions. Like, there are very minor exceptions where it's not just British people. Like, it's British and Scottish people.
It's UK. It's like James Bond, same kind of rules. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but, like, she was like, I really don't want any Americans in this, but, like, they still snuck in a couple. One is the directors of the first two films, specifically. Chris Columbus cast his daughter to play Susan Bones. And you see Susan Bones, who is a student with Harry, during the sorting. It actually is really kind of random, where it's like, when they do the sorting, one, they do it like in random fucking non-alphabetical order, which is really kind of fucks with me. And then they just throw in Susan Bones as throws one random girl getting sorted. She gets sorted into Hufflepuff. That is the director's daughter. And obviously they're American.
Sure.
The other one, I think there's a couple, but like Vern Troyer.
Yes. He plays one of the trolls at Gringotts.
Goblins.
Or goblins, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He plays the body of Griphook, the goblin, but he's voiced by Warwick Davis. And then when they made Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, both of them, Warwick Davis does both body and voice, effectively replacing Vern Troyer.
Right.
But if you're not really paying attention, you really kind of can't tell, because, you know.
Yeah, I knew he was in it, so I knew to look for him. But yes, I get the point you're making, you know.
But that's the point, is there's very minimal Americans in this film.
Right, no, but even then, the ones they had, the British actors they have are, like I said, it's the who's who. I mean, you got both guys that play Dumbledore are well known. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have Maggie Smith, who I've been a fan of for years.
Oh yeah,
playing McGonagall, Hook, but also Sister Act 1 and 2.
Tea with Mussolini.
I didn't see that, so I'm not familiar with that one.
It's such a fucking schmaltzy ass film, and it's almost kind of like, oh, you like that movie? It's one of those, like, dude, you like that movie? But it's kind of like, it's like a guilty pleasure, especially if you're like, I want a World War II film that isn't fucking tragic as shit.
Yeah. I think trying to think. There's someone from the Four Weddings and a Funeral, I think, in this movie, but I can't remember which actor it is. I'm blanking on who that is, but I'm pretty sure it's a small role. It's not a big one. It's not a
right.
Hagrid.
Well, Hugh Grant was almost cast as Lockhart.
Which one's Lockhart again?
The guy played by Ken Branagh. In the second year.
I thought it was year 2. Okay,
year 2, yeah.
But to your point, Kenneth Branagh.
Ken Branagh. Dude, fucking Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid.
Yeah, I was just getting there. Yeah. Now, did you see Mission Impossible 2?
Oh God, it's been a while, but yes, I have seen Mission Impossible 2.
Okay, the CEO from Mission Impossible 2, the guy who runs the pharmaceutical company who creates the virus that's the main point of the story.
Okay, I'm going to have to take your word for it.
They at one point kidnap him and make him think he's got it to get him to give up what it is or where the cure is. I mean,
yeah.
He plays Mad Eye Mooney.
Brendan Gleeson.
Yes, that's the same actor. Now,
okay.
Now, bear with me a second because I'm not as versed in these things as you are, and you know that. I'm not even talking Harry Potter, but just actors and names and all that kind of stuff. I actually got Hagrid and Mad Eye Mooney backwards. The actors, not the characters. Like, I was clear who the characters were.
But it's Mad Eye Moody. Not
Moody. I'm sorry, but...
No, I'm just saying. Because that's the other thing is there's a character as a nickname, Mooney. And that, I'll talk about that later.
Sure, but anyway, I got those actors backwards for a while, and Deb had to set me straight.
Whenever I want to remind somebody because it's kind of hard to know what Robbie Coltrane looks like when he's not Hagrid.
I know him from one thing.
Bushy beard.
I know him from one thing that's not Harry Potter.
Okay.
It's Ocean's 12.
Oh, I was going to go, okay, so have you seen any of the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies?
No.
Okay.
No. I've seen bits and pieces, but probably not the scenes he was in, to be fair.
He's in GoldenEye and he's in The World Is Not Enough. He plays the same character, and he plays a Russian, and he's really fucking funny and good in that. At one point, he's running from Bond. He falls in a giant vat of caviar. That's his own homebrewed caviar.
Okay.
And Bond is like threatening to drown him unless he gives up the information. He's like, "Don't make me drown in my own caviar. This is bullshit."
In Ocean's 12, very quickly, do you remember when they go to the meeting with Matsui and they talk like all out of like whatever, and then Matt Damon pulls out the lyrics?
Yeah.
He's Matsui.
Right. Yeah. I do remember that. And we actually talked about this on a fucking another episode that I will never be able to try and figure out where the fuck it is. We talked briefly about Blackadder, one of my favorite British shows.
I think that's come up a couple times, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was one in particular where Blackadder did a Christmas Carol special, like a Blackadder Christmas Carol.
Okay.
Them spoofing the Scrooge story.
Okay.
Now, the premise, just to remind you and to tell the audience, is the character of Blackadder consistently throughout the series is a nasty, greedy, selfish motherfucker. He's funny, he's Machiavellian, but he's a fucking asshole. And we all know the story of Scrooge. In Christmas Carol, Scrooge is that. He's a fucking prick. He's greedy. He's selfish. He hates everything and, loves nobody. When they did the special, they did a twist where they had Ebenezer, Blackadder, be the nicest fucking guy in England. So they're going against type.
Right.
And he is poor because he gives all his money away to charity.
Okay.
But he still has enough to maintain his business. And he's visited by the Christmas ghost, and it's just Robbie Coltrane. Now, this was filmed in like late 80s, well before J.K. Rowling wrote fucking Harry Potter. But in that, Robbie Coltrane...
Looks like Hagrid?
so fucking much
Yeah.
like Hagrid. The big bushy beard. He's playing that version where he's the giant spectral ghost,
Yeah.
the ghost of Christmas. What the fuck? Present.
It's probably
Yeah, the ghost of
present,
Christmas
yeah.
present, and he's a big bushy dude with a big cloak, and so I guarantee J.K. Rowling was watching that and was like, "That's a fucking great idea," and she handpicked Robbie Coltrane for Hagrid. She's like, "If I have any decision making, you've got to get Robbie Coltrane. Pay him what the fuck he wants. Like he needs to be. He'll be perfect as Hagrid." Unfortunately, now he's kind of he's suffering. Health-wise, he can't move his legs very well, so he's kind of forced to be in a wheelchair and use a cane. I mean, it's sad.
That is sad because he's a good actor, and I have enjoyed him in things that I've seen. So,
other, you brought up the Dumbledores.
very
the
quickly,
Dumbledores.
he's in that Huck Finn movie that you meant. No, the movie you mentioned is called Tom and Huck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, he's in a different version of that story then. Sorry.
He's in Adventures of Huckleberry Finn?
Yes.
Okay, I never saw that one. Some not so great castings. Number one, Michael Gambon as Dumbledore.
I think it's, for once I'm going to do this to you because you do this shit to me all the time, but I think it's Gambone. I don't think it's Gambon.
Gambone?
Yeah, I think it's Gambone.
I don't think there's an E at the end
There's
of it.
not, but I think it's still a long O. Yeah.
I have heard it as Michael Gambon, but either way, that motherfucker I did not particularly think was a very good Dumbledore, especially in the third and fourth ones. Richard Harris as Dumbledore in the first two was perfect. Like, I gotta tell you, man, as reading the books, he plays it exactly how it is in the books, and he looks the part.
While I don't have the book comparison, I agree with you. I liked him better. The only thing that I would have said, and I think I said this to you off air once, was that I would have not been upset if they'd cast Ian McKellen to do it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because Ian McKellen was the heavily lobbied choice. And Ian McKellen turned it down numerous times because he said that it would have been inappropriate for him to play Dumbledore because Richard Harris thought Ian McKellen was a dreadful actor. Which also, from what I've done a little bit of my research, I think Richard Harris was also homophobic, at least mildly.
Oh, okay.
And Ian McKellen is very gay.
Yeah.
The ultimate irony is now Dumbledore. We know Dumbledore is gay.
Right. I would have guessed that he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to. He'd already done Gandalf, and
well, that too.
Wanna, yeah.
That was the other. There were multiple factors. I mean, the thing about it is, obviously, when you cast Dumbledore, he's got to be old or he's got to be older,
Sure.
and it's hard to risk a role where with an older actor that might fucking die.
Yeah, I mean, you had a similar, not necessarily with age, but you had a similar thing with The Matrix, with the Oracle.
Yeah, but they kind of worked with that, didn't
No,
they?
they totally worked with.
She's...
They totally made it work. But they had to rewrite the script for the third movie, or at least
Right.
part of the plot to accommodate the fact that she passed. But
Sure.
But they made it work. But it's the same idea. You can't always. I mean, they casted that woman for The Matrix, and much like they casted him for Dumbledore, assuming he'd be around or hoping that he'd be around for the whole run. So.
He died before the second movie was released, and he begged them not to recast it. He died of Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay.
And he really, really was like, please don't do this. I really need... He actually turned down the role first, and then his granddaughter found out that he had turned it down and threatened to never speak to him again if he didn't. So, like, he made those last two movies just to please his granddaughter.
Right, but here's the thing, right? Like, if he's asking them not to cast it and they've got to make 6 more movies, like, how are they supposed to do that? Were they just supposed to kill off Dumbledore?
I mean...
No, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not... I think that's a little bit of an unfair request on his part. That's all,
I think they should have gone younger and aged him up. I think they should have found somebody who was... You know who they should have done? They should have done his son, Jared Harris.
Is he an actor? I don't even know.
You know him as Moriarty in the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes.
Oh,
films.
yeah, I know that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
His voice is a little bit tingier than...
Little tingier than Richard Harris, but for sure they should have cast him as young Dumbledore.
Because, well, yeah, but you know what? I don't have an objection to the young Dumbledore casting, and we'll get to that when we get there. But yeah,
right.
But yeah, you and I are in the minority. I know this because I've talked to several other people who are fans, and they all like Michael Gambon better, including Debbie.
I think fans of the movies who haven't read the books.
No, she's read the books, and she still likes him better.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. I will say this. He got better. He got better around the fifth fucking movie. The fifth movie on, he has toned down his angry ass Dumbledore. He has become more softer. He's dropped sort of fucking weird hippie look that they really were like really pushing for in 3 and 4. Like,
but see, is that him or is that producers and director and whatnot?
That's Alfonso Cuarón. That's the director of the third one, where he's like, I'm gonna, visually the third one is a fine film, and the music is great, and the acting performances are, for the most part, fine. But it's such a fucking big departure of what was slowly being established in 1 and 2. So it's very jarring.
And we've been at this for 45 minutes and really haven't dove into the movie yet, but I do have to ask this question because this is the kind of thing you would know that I wouldn't know. Was there I was going to use the word conceited, but that's not the right word. But was there a plan to not have the same director do more than like 1 or 2 of the movie? Like, for example, if you hear me out, and they've changed this since, but when they first started doing the Mission Impossible series, the movies, it was Tom Cruise's plan as producer, because he's produced all of them, to have a different director do each movie. To have just different styles. Now, I think the last 2, they've had the same director, so that has since changed. But, so was there a
no.
like, why didn't Chris Columbus direct all of these, is what I got to ask.
The answer is because he's an American, and he wasn't living. He was forced to live in England to do these fucking movies, and as he put it, he's like, I need to see my kids grow, dude. Like, I miss so many dinners and so many school performances. I need to like fucking raise my children.
Sure.
If he and to combat that, yes, they have had different directors, but the most consistent one is David Yates, who's directed every single one of them, starting with the 5th one. So 5, 6, 7, 8, and then Fantastic Beasts 1 and 2 are all directed by the same guy, David Yates.
Okay. I don't think I realized that, but I don't pay attention to that stuff as much as you do, so,
Well, so that's why 5 to fucking, if we're going to just do the Harry Potter films, 5 to Deathly Hallows Part 2 consistently looked like an actual series.
Right.
I mean, you could even argue the 4th one, which is directed by, Mike Lee, I want to say.
I'll check.
Looks similar enough to 3 and 5. Whereas it's this weird...
4 is Goblet of Fire, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember who... Something Nivell, I want to say? I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, Mike Newell.
Mike Newell. I sort of combined... Took Mike Lee, Mike Newell. Yeah. Okay. Who I think is a terrific director. I've seen movies of his, and he's a fantastic fucking director. I think he did Donnie Brasco. Like, but the 4th one, I have such a fucking big problem with, man. Not to mention, let's just break it down what the Harry Potter films and books are, okay? They're mystery novels for children and adults. They're mysteries at their core.
Really quickly, just to, because he did do Donnie Brasco.
Uh-huh.
And he also did 4 Weddings and a Funeral, actually.
I did actually remember that.
So, okay. But just to confirm that for you, he did do Donnie Brasco. So
now, would you agree that Harry Potter film. Harry Potter is overall a mystery fantasy series.
More fantasy than mystery, but sure, yeah.
Well, every year he's got to solve a fucking mystery. Well, the first one, he's got to solve why the fuck the Sorcerer's Stone is blah, 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 blah. It's all a giant treasure hunt. And
look, it's obvious that Dumbledore knows how important Harry is and all that because he's the one that takes the baby version of Harry to, his shitty fucking family, which I want to talk about. But, so he's aware of this kid's importance, but at the same time, like, if I was running a school and one student caused as much shit as Harry Potter was causing at my school, I would have expelled his ass. You know what I mean? Like, every year he's there's some fucking, chaotic craziness.
Sometimes it's his fault, sometimes it's not.
Correct.
Like, for example, them flying the fucking car to Hogwarts.
Their fault.
In the second, 1 billion % the stupidest decision they could have fucking made.
Yep.
Like, there's so many things they could have done. They could have waited. Number one, they could have just fucking waited. Do you honestly? I mean, and I reread it in the Chamber of Secrets last night. That was the chapter I covered last night. And they're like, oh, Ron's like, well, my parents could just apparate home. It's like, no, dude, they're gonna look for your asses first. They're gonna be like, hey, we were on the Hogwarts Express on the platform waiting for you. You guys didn't go through the fucking barrier. Where the fuck were you? You missed the train. They're gonna solve that shit because they're not incompetent fucking parents.
Yeah, the Weasleys, unlike the Dursleys, I think it's Dursley, right?
Yeah.
Are good people,
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, man, like, I had a fundamental problem with the Dursleys, which I'm sure is the point.
Yeah.
But
well, there's actually, one, Albus Dumbledore put Harry there because there were a multitude of families that would have been happy to raise Harry.
Without question. Sure.
Without question.
Yeah.
But he did it, one, in protection, because why would Voldemort would have gone any of these families to look for Harry?
Why would he look with some muggles? Yeah.
Some of the worst fucking muggles of all people, the most people that would actually hate the concept of magic.
Sure.
And also there was a protective charm, whereas because he is raised by a blood relative, meaning his Aunt Petunia,
right?
There is a protective charm where Voldemort would never be able to interfere.
That's
in the books?
Is it explained in the movies? Because I don't think that's ever really.
No,
yeah, I didn't think so.
Not one fucking iota.
Okay.
Which is like, why the fuck is I mean, throughout the movies, you look at it and you're like, dude, Dumbledore's a dick to Harry.
Sometimes, yeah.
But in the books, you're like, okay, he's still kind of a dick, but you get the fact that he's really trying to protect Harry. Like, he's got a whole Machiavellian reason for being a dick. Like, he doesn't want to be a dick, but he's got to be a dick.
You said that's in the books?
In the books.
See, in the movie, I got that, though. I got that. Mm-hmm.
They finally touched on it, but, like, why he's consistently have to stay at the Dursleys instead of the Weasleys, which
at one point he just says fuck it and does it anyway. By I think the third one.
The third one he leaves, which is in the book. He just runs away, and that's when they're all like, "Where the fuck is Harry?" They're all looking for him, and then he just goes to bucket. He gets picked up by the night bus, the 3-decker bus, which motherfucker. That is some of the changes that was just bad. The bus is fine, but the shrunken heads was fucking stupid.
Yeah, Deb thought that was a little excessive too. Yeah, she mentioned that.
I'm all for a director's vision. I'm all for it. But when you're going to add and change a bunch of shit for the sole purpose of a movie at the expense of really, really fucking integral plot points, then that's what pisses me off. And now we could talk about it because, like, the third movie, or the third book at least, is one of the best books of the series because it is a straight up mystery and has nothing to do with Voldemort. Voldemort's not in it. And it's all about if this fucking guy, Sirius Black, who is this escaped mass murderer, who is the only person that we know of at the time to have escaped from Azkaban. Right. That's a huge deal.
Right, and they push that in the movie too, though. They do push that.
Right. and the whole thing of like, why would they say to Harry like, don't go looking for Sirius. Like, why would I go looking for him? He's trying to fucking kill me. And it's like, well, because we know something about him, and he was friends with your parents. He's also technically your godfather. So, and it's like, it's a fucking mystery.
To me, the movie always set it up like he was almost framed, like he actually wasn't a mass murderer, like it was all just bullshit.
Okay, glad you brought that up. So you remember when I said when you were confusing Mad-Eye Moody with Mooney?
Yes.
Okay, there are 4 nicknames for the creators of the Marauders map. You remember that map that Harry gets?
Is that the one where it like shows you where everybody is in Hogwarts? Yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
So the Marauders are the guys who created that map. And their nicknames are Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs.
And
right?
Wormtail's the one I know, because, talk about character actors again. I've seen that guy in a bunch of stuff too, but anyway.
Timothy Spall. Great fucking character actor. Always, and in my opinion, perfect for that Peter Pettigrew role.
I agree, yeah.
Here's the thing. Those 4 guys that created the Marauders map, I'm going to list you who they are. Peter Pettigrew, who we know.
Yep.
Mooney is Professor Lupin, because he could turn a werewolf, hence Moon.
Okay.
Padfoot is Sirius Black, because he turns into a dog.
I don't think we ever see that, do we?
No. You see Sirius Black turn into a dog.
I don't remember that. But anyway, I believe you. I just don't remember it.
He's numerous times he turns into a dog in the 3rd film and the 5th one.
Okay. Anyway.
He's the dog that fights the werewolf.
Oh, okay.
He's the Grim that is stalking Harry.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then Prongs is James Potter, Harry's dad.
So, okay. So 3 of the 4 are still alive, obviously.
Because of the antlers. Prongs are the antlers.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So that's established that in the book, James Potter, Sirius, Peter, and Remus Lupin were best friends. And they found out very quickly that Lupin was a werewolf as a child. And they had planted that Whomping Willow tree for the sole purpose as a passageway for him to go into the Shrieking Shack, which is in that town down yonder, Hogsmeade.
Yeah.
And the kids kept trying to find out where the fuck is Lupin every full moon. Like, he keeps disappearing. He always makes up an excuse. He's sick, or his family member is sick, or he's got to go away and there's an emergency. And they learn how to become animagi, which is how to turn into an animal. And it's insanely difficult in the Wizarding world how to learn how to do that. Like, McGonagall can do it because she's an expert at transfiguration.
Sure.
But for these kids to actually been able to do it at such a young age shows how intelligent they are and how dedicated they are to their friendship. And so then they can be with their friend who's a werewolf, who's gone insane, and they kind of keep him company and actually kind of calm his ass down. So that's all in the book. Never once do they ever say this giant friendship, why Sirius Black can turn into a dog, why the Whomping Willow is important, why, this friendship is really fucking rooted, and also the fact they never mentioned that they created the Marauders map. So it's shit like that where it's like, it's such an important plot point because Harry, the thing Harry wants is to be connected to his parents. He aches for his family.
Right.
He aches for his parents. And don't you think that would have been a fucking nice thing to tell Harry? Be like, oh yeah, that map you have, that was written by your dad, dude.
Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, like, not having that information, I don't feel like takes away from needing to know, moving the story along.
But then they're going to add other elements without explaining it, like the reason why Harry's Patronus, that spell where he gets rid of the Dementors, the giant light thing, why his animal is a stag. His animal is a fucking stag because it's his father.
Right. Okay.
So that's also why when Snape does his Patronus, it's a doe to represent Lily.
Right.
So,
we'll get into the Snape thing because, I mean, at least the way the movies are portrayed, Harry's father was a bit of a jerk.
Yes, and in the books, there is this whole thing where Harry blindly, defiantly denies that his father was big-headed, a bully, was cocky, was arrogant. Snape is always telling him in the books and throughout the movie series.
Okay,
He's like, "You're arrogant, just like your father." Like, he's like, "Your father was a swine." He's like, "My father was a great man." It's like, and then they touch it very briefly in the movie where Snape is trying to teach Harry very, very badly, I'll add, how to deflect people trying to read his mind. It's called occlumency. And in the film, he just does a shield charm which repels back to Snape so he can read his memories for a split second. But in the book, Harry sort of sneaks into Snape's office or classroom. He's told to sit there, and then he looks over and he sees that Pensieve, the giant bowl where Dumbledore puts his memories.
Yeah.
So Snape has one. So he's kind of curious. He knows he shouldn't. He dunks his head in that, and he relives that memory, and he finds his dad, and that's when he's given that rude awakening that his father is just as arrogant as Snape is claimed to be. You're right. James Potter was a complete fucking tool for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, he's not evil, but he's certainly not a good guy. Yeah.
He is basically, as far as I'm concerned, kind of like if Draco Malfoy had become a Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Without the racism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they both come from money. They're both very arrogant. They're both used to, but then, James calms down. That's the whole thing that is missing is the character. I mean, there's a lot of things, but like they really don't focus too much on his parents, which I gotta mention. The actors that play his parents are fine, but when you think about it, they're portrayed as too old. If you really, really are being honest, Harry's parents died when they were about 20 years old.
I would have said late 20s. I would have said like 27, 28.
I know, but that's not how it's in the books. They leave, get out of Hogwarts. They immediately get married, and then they kind of immediately have Harry.
Okay.
And you leave Hogwarts at around 17. So at the most, they're like 21, 22, which is tragically young. And that's the thing that's really never spoken about in the Harry Potter books or the movies, is that they didn't just lose their lives. They lost a whole chunk of their lives. If they were 40, it would have been like, oh, it's still sad, but they had 40 fucking years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were practically fucking children themselves, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And the cast actors that are clearly like 35 was kind of like,
Well, that might have been like a choice, so they didn't show like young kids having children or whatever, or even though they'd be adults, you know what I mean? But like promoting that kind of thing,
right?
Getting into the specifics of the movie, though,
Which movie?
The first one, since we haven't actually done that yet.
Okay.
An hour in, I don't want to go like scene by scene or anything like that, but there's definitely highlights and loads. Deb has a major plot hole that she found that she wanted us to discuss. So do you want me to? It's from the latter part of the movie, so I don't know if you want to talk about other stuff first.
It may be the one that I discovered too, but go ahead, hit me with it.
Well, it's the professor who's got Snape in his head, and I can't remember his name right now.
No,
so maybe
Voldemort.
I'm sorry, Voldemort.
Quirrell
yes.
and Voldemort.
Yeah, but when Harry touches him, he starts to disintegrate because Harry's touched because of the love or what. I don't remember the specifics, right?
Right.
But Deb's plot hole was that right before Harry touches him, within like 5 minutes, he strangles Harry and doesn't disintegrate. So if Harry's skin is what's supposed to make him disintegrate like that, because it didn't say his hand, it said his skin. And we rewound it to double check. She's right. It says Harry's skin is protected, and then that's what caused him to not be able to. That when he touches that guy, what's his name again, please?
Quirrell.
That's why he disintegrated.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree that that's kind of like
I'm guessing that's not the one you found, or the one you have, but...
Well, no, first off, I agree with Deb's thing. Like, visually, that's a weird fucking plot hole. It's like he's touching... It's like you still touch something very hot, for example. It's a weird analogy, but like if you touch fire, you're still going to get burned. If fire touches you, you're still going to get burned. Like, there's no fucking way like, of how to avoid that. But I think they're kind of like, well, all right, Harry's got the fucking magic touch to melt this fucker.
Right, but then they should have said touch, not his skin. And like I said, we rewound it and double checked, and they do use the term his skin. So by that logic, anywhere he touches Harry should have melted him or disintegrated him.
Agreed. In the book, it's slightly even more confusing because in the movie, when we first see Harry in Diagon Alley in the pub, the Leaky Cauldron, Quirrell is there.
Yeah,
and Harry offers to shake his hand, and Quirrell doesn't shake his hand.
You're right. I never thought of that. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Quirrell doesn't know that if he touches Harry, he'll fucking disintegrate. Now, in the book, when that scene happens, when they're in Diagon Alley, he does shake his hand. But also, they don't ever say that he's wearing a turban. They say he's wearing a turban later. So the implication is that he's not wearing a turban, which means he doesn't have Voldemort on the back of his head. So therefore, he's not cursed if he touches Harry. You know what I mean?
Right.
They actually do shake hands, but then he does, because he fucks up trying to get the stone at a Gringotts, that's when Voldemort says, I'm going to now be like your second mouth. Like I'm going to be that motherfucker who can look behind,
Yeah, that actually leads to something else Deb just had a problem with. It's not a plot hole per se, but when you see Voldemort on the back of his head, he has a nose. And then when you get to the Ralph Fiennes version later, he does not have a nose.
He does have a nose, but it's flat. Stretched down.
Yeah, no,
it's flat.
Yeah, I don't have as much of a problem with it as Deb does, but she did point that out.
Well, you have to give it credit because when that movie came out, they really didn't know how to fucking do Voldemort's face.
Right.
The only person who knew was J.K. Rowling, and she basically told him, like, flatten the nose more. And the actor who did Voldemort in that was not Ralph Fiennes.
No.
It was Ian Hart who played Quirrell. He provided the motion capture into the voice.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, it was clearly a CGI voice thing. I wasn't sure who did it, but yeah.
And I actually thought he did a great job. I mean, that set the tone.
Sure.
For what Voldemort was. It was exactly how it should be. I mean, it was snake-like, it was flat, and you could also argue, like, well, it's his face is going to be distorted because he's on the back of a fucking head.
Right. It wasn't a big thing, but it was something she mentioned it, like, he has a nose, and then when you get to Ralph Fiennes, 7 movies later, or 6 movies later, he doesn't have a... Well, actually, not even, like 4, because he...
It was like 3 more later.
Yeah, he shows up in the Goblet of Fire.
Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
My favorite thing that would have been perfect to see in the movie about the fact that Voldemort's in the back of Quirrell's head?
What's that?
In that book, Sorcerer's Stone, friend George Weasley bewitched snowballs to hit the back of Quirrell's turban. Just as a fucking prank.
Sure.
So effectively meaning they're bewitching snowballs to fly and hit Voldemort in the face.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. Anything else about Sorcerer's Stone? Can we move on to the second one?
I guess there's just one other scene I really enjoyed. It's not overly pivotal to anything in the story, I guess, but a couple things I really enjoyed, actually. But, like, I liked watching them develop the friendship between Hermione, Ron, and Harry. Like, just watching that develop. I also really enjoyed the chess scene when they're going through to get to the stone. I'm a big fan of chess. I'm a big fan of, like, battle chess. There's actually a game called Battle Chess where, very similarly to what you see in the movie, when you take a piece, the characters like battle,
I'm glad you brought that up because I will say that the first 2 movies are actually some of the most faithful of the books. Like, they really, really, really got a lot of the charm, the dialogue, the characters really well, and they didn't really kind of sacrifice a lot of the story. They're like, hey, what is the source material? There's the fucking book. Oh, well, how is Harry supposed to react this way? J.K.'s like, I wrote it the fuck down for you. Read it, motherfucker. But there was another test in the books before Harry confronts Quirrell with a mirror, which let's talk about that for another minute. You want to talk about a fucking plot hole? I'll give you one.
You want to talk plot holes? I got a plot hole with J.K. Rowling as a whole, but that's another.
Okay, well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there is another test where it was Snape's. Hagrid explicitly said, it's like, Snape's one of the ones protecting the stone. But yet in the movie, we never see what his thing is.
Right.
And in the book, he had done a whole a test of logic, which is he has a bunch of different potions on a table, and there's two sets of fire surrounding them. One's black, the other one's purple. The purple one's forward, the black one's backwards. So there's a riddle they have to read that Hermione reads and solves to determine if you drink this potion, you can go forward to progress. If you drink this potion, you can go backwards to, work your way to go back to safety through the chessboard and all that shit.
Sure.
And then like 2 or 3 of them are poison, and then a couple of them are just wine. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
that whole thing was not about daringness, being a powerful wizard, remembering the right fucking spell. It wasn't fighting a troll. It wasn't none of that shit. It was, you got to be fucking smart.
Yeah.
You got to figure this shit out. If you want to live, you got to read this shit and solve this riddle. And the whole point was Hermione does it. And then they kind of like, that's how Harry can go forward and how she can go back and get Ron, who's been knocked the fuck out by a giant chessboard set piece.
Right.
But in the movie, they just kind of like skirt that and kind of take away that kind of character development and say, you're a great wizard, Harry. And he's like, well, he didn't do one goddamn spell the entire fucking movie. Everyone's talking about how powerful Harry Potter is going to be in the first fucking movie. Never once does he do a spell.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
I think he does the levitation spell once.
Nope.
I beg to differ.
I think you're wrong.
Oh.
No, never once does he do a single spell, a successful single spell. I think he does the Wingardium Leviosa, but it doesn't fucking work.
No, I think he does it. He does it once when they're fighting the troll.
Nope, that's wrong. Harry's hanging off the troll's fucking neck.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which, talk about bad CGI. That was
oh my god, yeah,
terrible.
Well, they actually had to do that CGI because someone, like, I think it was a doctor or a professor, like, studied that and the motion of him being flailed around. They said if this was really happening, that would have snapped Harry's fucking neck.
Fair.
So they had to kind of like, hey, let's not kill the kid that we just
let's not
this
kill.
fucking covenant role.
Yeah,
we want him to grow.
Talk about having to recast.
Yeah, it's like, do you got Haley Joel Osment online too? Like, if not, don't kill Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah.
But here's another plot point, another plot hole. Steph discovered this, and it was kind of one of those moments where, remember when you and I were discussing, like, if Indiana Jones hadn't fucking, like,
done anything?
Yeah.
Right.
So, if Harry hadn't gone down to confront Quirrell for the Sorcerer's Stone and the Mirror of Erised, which is Mirror of Desire backwards, by the way,
sure,
then Quirrell would have just been staring at the fucking mirror, trying to figure out how to get the fucking Sorcerer's Stone. Dumbledore was already on his way to go down and check to see if, like, anybody was trying to steal the stone. So the only reason why Quirrell almost won was because Harry went down and interfered. If Harry had just said, you know what, I'm done with this fucking mystery bullshit, like, I got, like, exams to follow, dude, like, then Quirrell would have just been standing there like, I don't know what to fucking do. This thing is there. How do I fucking get it? Because the whole point is that if you desire the stone to use it, you will not get it. That's the whole charm that fucking,
Right.
and I mean that actual magical charm that Dumbledore puts. If you want the stone to not use it for personal glory, then you'll get the stone.
And he would be stuck there.
Right. That's the other thing. He'd be stuck there because he can't apparate, which is the teleporting thing that they actually, I don't even think they actually call, well, I think they call it that in like the 6th movie.
Yeah, I think it's later. Yeah.
So because you can't apparate on Hogwarts grounds. Dumbledore can because he's fucking Dumbledore.
Right.
So Dumbledore could have just been like, I'm going to go check out my fucking reflection, you know, bada bing, and go down that and see Quirrell and been like, motherfucker, I knew it was you all along.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, what's that pimple you have on the back of your head? Oh, that's Voldemort. Holy shit. And then been like, fucking, I fucking, fetus deletus and fucking waves a magic wand
Fetus deletus.
and fucking expecto fucking shit your asso and fucking, and then Quirrell would be thrown in Azkaban
Right.
with
Instead of-
Voldemort on the back of his fucking head.
Then he really wouldn't
So-
need any of the other movies.
I know. I'm just saying in terms, it's an interesting to discover because when Steph said it, I stared at the book after I just read that whole thing. I stared at the words, thinking hard to try and like say like, no, that won't work because, oh fuck, she's right. Son of a bitch. And I was like, you just blew my goddamn mind.
Thanks, Steph.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good. It's good to think of shit like that because, you know, for the most part, that's my point, is that Harry is kind of awful in the first fucking couple of books and movies. He's really just like, I'm going to solve this mystery. It's like, dude, he's kind of like the Tony Stark of like, he's just like, stop doing shit and we won't have bad shit.
Right. Well, that goes back to my point from earlier that if Dumbledore didn't already know, he'd be like, fuck, I'm expelling you for like destroying my school every year.
It's like, stop destroying shit. But like, the car, dude, like that is like, we could say that was Ron's idea, but Harry went along with it.
Well, of course.
And they, you know, you have to at one point think like they were in the car like, we're going to get in trouble for this. At no point were they like, in the books they describe how they were like going to fly down majestically and everyone's going to applaud of like how awesome they are. Everyone's going to be and I was like, wow, Harry's really kind of looking for glory here, which is kind of a different departure than how he's portrayed in the first book. He's like, I don't want to be.
Well, and
like,
that's an interesting thing
horrified.
that I noticed throughout the series too. Is like there's definitely that resentment between Ron and Harry at one point. You know, especially from Ron's side. You know,
In the fourth one, yeah. They didn't really even fucking. I mean, they touched upon it in the movie, in Goblet of Fire, but in the book, they go a little bit more personal, and ultimately, they didn't kind of rectify it very well either. It's kind of like, hey, I'm pissed off at you, and it's kind of an awkward fight, and no point is believable in my opinion. The book, at least, I could see it because they deep dive why Ron is really fucking upset.
Right.
Pissed off. He's
yeah,
jealous,
it really did feel out of place, that particular in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Goblet of Fire, dude, I have big fucking problems with, and I know you like the movie.
Well, and I'll tell you, but I didn't like it because of consistency or anything like that. I
Just thought it was entertaining.
It was entertaining. I liked the darker aspect of it. I liked seeing Harry and Ron, and to a lesser extent Hermione, as typical, 14-year-old teenagers. They grew their hair long, they're a little rebellious,
Fuck, dude. The hair.
Well, but see, I don't know why that's a thing, because that's something a 14-year-old would do. I did it,
But it wasn't just them. Everyone else had their fucking hair unnaturally long.
Yeah, well, I mean, the older Weasley brothers, I felt like had it long in the movie before that too, if I recall.
Yeah,
the twins.
It was weird.
Well, why?
It was weird.
Why is that weird?
Because at no point, I mean, Harry's hair is supposed to be that. I'll give you that. Harry's hair is supposed to be all fucking kind of shaggy and untidy. They're always saying about how his hair sticks up straight at the back of his head. So technically, his hair is supposed to be how it is in the fourth one, consistently throughout the fucking series. But Ron is not supposed to fucking look like he's auditioning for the fucking Cure, okay?
Ron no. He has orange hair. He did not look like he was. If you're auditioning for the Cure, you have black hair. You have hairy hair. But that's beside the point.
Well, it's not my fault he's a fucking ginger fuck. I'm talking about, like, the length of the hair. He looks like he's kind of auditioning to be the next Dumbledore.
I don't know. I liked
it. Was a weird choice, man.
It might be a weird choice, but it is weird because they immediately, the next movie, basically do away with it, you know.
Right, because everyone was like, what the fuck was that, dude? Everyone said, why is the hair fucking insanely long? And everyone's like,
you can at least kind of explain Harry because he could be trying to mimic Sirius. You know what I mean? So that's at least a way to explain that, because Sirius always had long hair. But
sure, but he barely knew Sirius, which is another thing that I was really kind of upset about in the movies, was they really didn't
dive into that as deep as they should have. I kind of got the feeling, like, I'm not familiar with the books, but I got the feeling that there should have been more to that. Yeah.
And the little things where he, like, writes to Sirius on, you know, with his fucking Hedwig, his fucking owl.
Yeah.
He titles it Dear Sirius. Like, motherfucker, the guy is in hiding.
Yeah.
And in the books, he says, refer to me as Snuffy, because he's like, he's in hiding, so he's roaming around the countryside as a dog.
Right. Well, here's the and we'll get into a CGI issue I had in a second, but, like, what I also liked about it was the trials, like that kind of adventure, which was, you know, substantially different from anything pre or post, you know.
I thought the trials for the Triwizard were fine, with the exception of the maze. The hedge maze is very different. It's very, very, very different.
See, that's the thing that's interesting about this whole discussion, right? You're coming at it from that perspective of comparison.
Right.
I'm coming at it from just the... Like we do with a lot of the other movies we talk about when there's a series like an MCU or like, you know, Indiana Jones or Back to the Future. We're looking at it from the, you know, the consistency between 1 to 2 to 3 to however many there are. You know what I mean? So I liked it. I think the only thing that I will probably agree with you is that, except for the sequence at the end with the fight with Voldemort where he comes, you know, back to life,
which is the best part as far as I'm concerned. There's
no real connectivity to the movies previous or post, except that it involves Harry and you know, Ron and Hermione and whatnot, and Hogwarts. But there's no, like, you could take that one out of the story and it probably would still make sense. Like, watch the series and it would probably still make sense.
I mean, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Like, it's a standalone movie?
It almost acts like one, yeah. Yeah, it really kind of does.
I mean, look, man, I will say this. The fourth one is probably my favorite book. So I'm very kind of bitchy about what they did in the movie.
Sure, and that makes sense. If you love the movie, or the book, I mean, then you would want... You know, if you have fundamental problems with the movie, I could see why that would be. I mean,
I love all the books, but there's times I love more.
Right.
I love 4 and 6 probably the most. I'm big fans of those ones.
Can I? There's a CGI issue I wanted to get to very quickly, and I don't think it's going to take a whole lot of time. But they did something in that movie that I really enjoyed, and they try to do it again in. I think it's Deathly Hallows Part 1, but if not, it's the one right before it. Where Sirius talks to Harry via the fireplace.
Okay, so in the fourth one, he looks like he's part of the coals and wood.
Right.
And in the fifth one, I believe it's the next one.
Sorry.
He is just sort of a flame.
Like a specter, yeah. I like the first one better, personally.
I like either. I'm fine with either. But that's my problem, is that you see little shit like... And it's the little shit like that drives me nuts. It's like, okay, if you have to replace an actor because fucking someone died, or if you have to kind of tweak a character for the sake of something, or you have to drop a thing entirely for runtime, fine. I get it. You can't fucking put every goddamn bit of detail in every fucking thing. But if one filmmaker established something and you're doing it for the sake of consistency, then be consistent.
Right. Agreed.
That's my problem. Is it's such a little thing, but if it's such a little thing, why change it completely?
Agreed. I agree 100%. And that's not, we're not just picking on Harry Potter in this. Like, we're talking across the board. If you're
anything.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking hate inconsistencies in films, in film series.
Right. And there's some you have to deal with. Like, I mean, because I know there's a small grouping of fans that are pissed off that Terrence Howard didn't continue his roadie.
I was just thinking the same fucking thing.
And there's also, going back to The Matrix, because I'm a big fan of that.
Right.
The character Tank, the operator from the first one, never dies, technically, in the movie. His brother Dozer dies, but Tank doesn't die. And there was a contract dispute between the Wachowskis, and I'm assuming the studio, and him, and therefore they killed off the character before they did the second movie. And replaced him with Harold Perrineau with a whole new character.
Right.
Which we'll get into we'll get into those another time. But the point is that like those inconsistencies even annoy people, so.
I mean, it's fine, but you look at the movies and you're like, okay, they have to sacrifice certain shit for the runtime.
Sure.
But then they made Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. If I'm really being honest, they really were considering doing that for Goblet of Fire, because at the time, Goblet of Fire was
the longest book.
The longest book until Order of the Phoenix, but Order of the Phoenix is still the longest book. It's like 850 pages, and Goblet of Fire is 734 pages.
Okay, and because Deb and I talked about that too, and just the run times and leaving stuff out for the run times, and I actually had a what I think to be a poignant theory as to why they had to do that as they went along, right? So it's these movies, especially the first two, you're meant as an audience to grow with the movies and the characters, right?
Yeah.
So try to sit down a kid who's like 9, 10 for longer than an hour and a half.
11.
But your audience, your target audience is between the ages of 9 to like 12.
Sure.
Try to sit down a 9 or 10-year-old for more than an hour and a half and get him to pay attention.
Well, Chamber of Secrets is like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Chamber of Secrets, I think, is actually the longest film.
Well,
of the whole series.
if you split Deathly Hallows, yeah, because if you blend that into one, then yeah, that's long.
No. Well, yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, but no,
it's like the shortest book with the longest movie. It's weird.
They're 2.5 hours though. Deathly Hallows 1 and 2. They're 2.5 each, I believe.
I still think Chamber of Secrets is like over a minute longer than individual films.
Maybe.
And again, I understand that there are some things that have to be cut, but there's so many great parts of the book series that are just fucking completely abolished. And I said this earlier. They are mysteries to a certain degree. There's always a big reveal. There's always a twist or a big reveal. Like, perfect example. We find out Mad-Eye Moody is not Mad-Eye Moody, right?
Right.
Now, in the book, when you read that shit, it is a motherfucking shock when he's revealed as Barty Crouch Jr., played by David Tennant.
Well, yeah, that's another one. We were talking about, heavy-hitting actors in this series. I meant to bring that up, so thank you. Yeah, like David Tennant shows up in this thing, even if ever so briefly.
And he's fine in the role, but there's a thing that he does that's not in the book, where he does that weird fucking Joker Heath Ledger tongue flip thing. You remember?
Trying to remember.
David Tennant as Barty Crouch, like, look at me. He does this.
Oh, yeah.
And Brendan Gleeson does it as Mad-Eye Moody. That was not a thing. That was not a thing in the books. And that was such a fucking big revealio that it takes away the mystery. Like, we've already caught the fuck on. We're like, okay, I clearly that's the motherfucker. That's David Tennant. We get it. Why? And how do you escape? Because they do this whole scene where Harry sees the courtroom drama in the Pensieve, the memory fucking bowl of wonders, where David Tennant is revealed as a Death Eater, and how it's such a big fiasco because his father, Barty Crouch Sr., played weirdly by that fucking actor with the small little mustache. I didn't like that portrayal. Like, that's a big significant thing because he's kind of like, imagine like the defense attorney, the district attorney finds out his son is actually a kingpin. It's a big scandal that, like, it's that kind of thing. Or like part of a member of the Jewish Protection Act finds out his son is actually a neo-Nazi. It's something like that. It's such a big blow. So in the book, Barty Crouch Jr. is locked up in Azkaban. And his father, the whole point is that the mystery is that Barty Crouch Sr. visits his son one last time because he knows that his wife is dying. And, it's like, we're going to say goodbye. So they actually devise a plan where he smuggles his son out of Azkaban. Him, the fucking dude who's like strict, rigid, follows the rules.
Right.
Decides what they're going to do is they're going to they're going to polyjuice the wife and the son to replace each other. She'll die in Azkaban prison, and he smuggles the son out. And the son is under the Imperious Curse, which is the controlling curse, right?
Right.
So the mother dies, they bury her, and the Dementors that are guarding Azkaban can't actually see. So they can't tell the difference. They just feel presences.
Right.
And then, so the other thing about the fourth book that was completely left out of the movie was there is a whole abundance of house elves. Remember Dobby?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are other house elves in the series that are completely just fucking neglected. One of them is Winky. Winky is a female house elf who was sort of in on protecting Barty Crouch Jr. So she was the house elf, so she had to lay and be when Barty Crouch Sr. was gone, she had to be the one who was paying attention and watching Jr.
Gotcha.
So, and when in the beginning, when after the Quidditch match in the fourth movie that we never see, the World Cup.
Right.
Then you actually go into detail what the fuck happens in that game. And what happens is Barty Crouch Sr., Jr. under a invisibility cloak and Winky are sitting behind Harry. And they see and Jr. sees his wand, takes it, sees Harry's wand sticking out of his pocket, pulls it, and now he's got a wand. Then he administers the Dark Mark, the giant Voldemort skull symbol in the sky. And when all the ministry officials, the Aurors, do their charms and stun whoever could have been there, they find the house elf. They find Winky. They're not aware that they actually did hit Barty Crouch Jr. because he's under the invisibility cloak.
Right.
So Barty Crouch Sr. has no choice but to blame it on the house elf. He fires her, gives her clothes, like, Dobby has given a sock, that whole thing.
Right.
Except she fucking is distraught as shit. It's the worst thing that she's ever had to go through because it wasn't her fault. But they found the wand next to her, and Senior can't be like, oh, well, that's clearly my fucking son who's technically supposed to be in Azkaban, and I broke him out, and I'm blah, blah, blah.
Right, yeah.
So, and also he did kind of like blame her, like, you were supposed to watch him, motherfucker! And so they completely cut that whole thing. And we find out that not only is Dobby working at Hogwarts, he's working in the kitchens. Because all the food that's prepared for all the feasts and all the cleaning and making the beds and all that shit are done by the house elves.
Right.
We find out Dobby, after he was freed by the Malfoys, or by Harry Potter from the Malfoys.
Freed by the Malfoys via Harry, essentially.
Right. You lost me my seventh! And then he tries to do the fucking Avada Kedavra curse. Did you remember that in the second movie?
Yes.
He's like, Avada! It's like, you're gonna kill Harry Potter because you lost a servant? In broad daylight? When Dumbledore's down the fucking hallway, dude? How stupid are you, Lucius?
Exactly.
Like, dude, you can get another servant! Fuck! Anyways. we find Winky is in the kitchens, and she's actually become a full-blown depressed alcoholic. She's been drinking nothing but butterbeer, which is not alcoholic, but for a house elf is.
Gotcha.
And she's just this blubbering, fucking sick, wailing, crying mess. So imagine if you took Dobby and Moaning Myrtle and add alcohol, it would be this. and at the same time, while that's happening, Hermione becomes obsessed with wanting to be the champion, the civil rights champion for the house elves.
I can see that.
SPEW, spew, but it's like the social protectum elf welfare or something like that.
Okay.
So does it fit the movie? The whole Hermione's obsession with wanting to like be the civil rights fucking activist for house elves? No. But it's interesting to see, but the whole Winky thing is really kind of important because it explains the mystery. At no point do they explain how Barty Crouch Jr. was freed. They don't really express why he was sided with Voldemort, why he fucking took on, how he got the Polyjuice potion to fucking turn into Mad-Eye Moody. Like, there's so much left out of that movie that you watch it. If you're just a casual fan, you just want to watch the movies, fine. But if you just slightly think about it, you're like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, it's very like I said, it's kind of a standalone movie in its own right, you know. Because
and that's
like
why
that.
probably Mike Newell only did one movie.
Yeah. You know, we keep going back to this, but you made me think of it when you were telling that story about heavy-hitter actors that are in this that are. Actually, unfortunately, also, there's a lot of dead people in this movie, in this series. I mean, unfortunately, you know, but John Hurt.
Oh, yeah, that's Ollivander.
Yeah, you know, that's another one.
And he was good because he captures it properly. In the book, he is described as, like, kind of creepy. Like, he's not a villain, but he's just kind of creepy. He's kind of unsettling.
Well, I mean, to be fair, John Hurt, by nature, is a little creepy.
Right, but like that's my point is that he was very well cast for that role.
I mean, and that's not a disparaging shot on John Hurt, but everything I've ever seen him in, he's always been kind of creepy.
It's his eyes.
With one exception.
It's his voice.
One exception, actually. Crystal Skull. He's not very creepy in that one. I didn't think.
No, he's just aloof in that one.
Right, but he's not creepy. Yeah.
I mean, I can bitch about the fourth one, but I also thought Brendan Gleeson, in my opinion, was not a good choice for Mad-Eye Moody. Like, I love the actor. I think he's a great fucking actor. But not all what I envisioned. I envisioned, like, Jeremy Irons or...
Okay.
You know, because at no point, like, he's not really kind of portrayed as, like, a heavy-set ginger dude. He's kind of like...
Gotcha.
He's kind of like... if Sirius Black had like really been fucked up, like long matted grayish black hair.
See, if I could guess though, I think it has to do with the voice. I think his voice is what was needed for maybe the rest of him not so much, but that voice I think
that bark, that constant vigilance, that kind of
and it's got a bit of a graveliness to it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, not unlike Jeremy Irons,
But see, here's the difference between him and Irons, and this is not a disparaging comment about him, right? Irons sounds refined, and that's really a bad choice of words based on his name, but you know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
He's
silky.
that.
His voice is silky and smooth, like Rickman.
He's like but even Rickman's a little more gruff than Jeremy Irons. You know what I mean? Like Jeremy Irons is very, you know, upper class, very proper. You know,
right?
And I feel like Mad-Eye Moody.
Scar. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like Mad-Eye Moody needed to be a little more like, you know, I mean, he's called Mad-Eye Moody. I mean, like he's a little unhinged. You know what I mean?
Well,
so you
that's
need
because
that.
His first fucking name is hard to pronounce.
Well, no, but I'm saying he's still a little unhinged. I mean, you see even when you see the real Mad-Eye Moody later in the series,
fifth, sixth one, yeah,
the eyes still like he's still very much the same person. Like the Tennant's character didn't not portray him the way he actually was. You know what I mean?
Well, they did. I mean, the only thing that's kind of exaggerated is the tongue flip.
Well, no, but I'm
which is what
talking about just the gruffness and the eye wandering like all over
Right.
the place, and
Right, because I mean, they kind of touch on it where like you see the real Mad Eyes in that special trunk,
right.
but in the book he's got him like under the Imperious curse, so he can interrogate him and ask him and have him coach him on how to be him.
Right.
essentially.
Okay. Right.
So, but I don't know. You made me think about it. Like, you want to talk about good casting? Alan Rickman as Snape.
Oh yeah, without question.
Pitch perfect casting.
I know you have a problem with Dumbledore. I don't have a problem with Gambon as much as you do. I liked the other guy better, but I didn't have as much of a problem with the recast. But as a general statement, I feel like all the professors were really well cast. I mean,
McGonagall,
Yep.
perfect. Trelawney, played by Emma Thompson, perfect for the most part. Like, and if they ever rebooted it, I would actually kind of like to see Emma Thompson do McGonagall. Like, if they made a series,
I could see that.
I think
Yeah.
Emma Thompson now could do a decent McGonagall.
Yeah, I agree. Sure.
But
Like the gym teacher who you only see the one movie, but she was good.
Hooch, oh yeah, well, she actually I think was fired. The
Okay,
actress.
but still, she did a good. I mean, I still think she did a good job. Whether
She's
they,
fine.
Madam
Madam Hooch isn't exactly like an integral character. In
No, I'm not saying that. Well,
I like how you
neither's
call her
Emma.
the gym teacher.
Well, because that's kind of what she is. But
Right.
I mean, to be fair, neither's Emma Thompson's character is not overly integral, and she doesn't show. The other thing is like she claims to have been there
Here's
for
the
like.
book.
What's that? Okay, well maybe, but she claims to be there for like 20 plus years, and you don't see her until movie 4,
3.
3. Like
Well, the reason why is because divination is not required for 1 and 2 years. It's for 3 years minimum.
right. But there are some professors you see just wandering the halls or up at the table
Right.
during the feast that they never take the class of, so you
Right.
don't see her at all until that class.
Agreed.
You know?
Agreed.
And then
I don't even actually think that they actually have Trelawney in the books until 3, even though the implication is you're right, she's been there. But I guess-
because in the one with the short pink lady.
Oh, Umbridge?
Yeah, when Umbridge tries to get rid of her as headmaster, when she becomes headmaster and tries to get rid of her.
What she says, because I remember the line, and I know the year, she said, Hogwarts has been my home for the past 16 years.
Okay,
Because she got a job there 1 year before Harry was born. And the reason why it's significant is because she had applied for a job at Hogwarts to Dumbledore, and in the middle of her interview, she makes a prediction. And it's the one where the whole thing about Harry and Voldemort will fight against each other, and one that will be born on July 31st, and yada yada yada, or somewhere in July, and the Dark Lord will have to fucking take him down, and he will choose him as his equal. So that's why she got the job, because Dumbledore's like, holy fuck, you actually like
know what you're doing. Yeah.
No. She doesn't know that she did it.
Right.
She thinks that she can predict it, but she also knows that she's a fucking fraud. But like, Dumbledore's like, I need to have you in my employ, in my employ, because like I don't need anyone else to hear you can actually do legit predictions, because you'll be fucking killed or captured. Is really kind of how it goes.
Yeah. But like I thought all the professors were well done. I did. Even Kenneth Branagh as
Lockhart.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm blanking on all these names, but
No, that's what I'm here for.
there's a lot of characters. But like he's playing, because I always took it as he was not a farce, but he was fake. He wasn't. I mean, I guess he had magical powers, but he certainly wasn't as powerful as he was portrayed.
He had gone to other people who've actually. So I actually brought this up when I was reading the second book. In the book, they each receive a letter for their Hogwarts of a requirement of what they're supposed to buy, like all the books they're supposed to buy for that year.
Okay.
In the book, there's like the standard book of spells year 2, and then there's like 8 fucking books written by Gilderoy Lockhart. It's like all kitschy fucking titles, like violent adventures with vampires and harrowing escapes from hags and shit like that. And I said, it's kind of a dude. Like, Dumbledore knows that Lockhart is more or less incompetent.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, he's not fake. He's just not really good.
Well, he is fake because he's claiming he's done all these adventures when he has gone to the right. Everything that's in those books happened. Lockhart didn't do it. He found the person who did it and then memory charmed them.
What I meant by fake was that to me, the way you define fake in this conversation, in this context, is that he wouldn't have magical powers and claiming to have them. He actually can do magic. He just didn't do the things, like you said, he didn't do the things he claimed he did. So
right, he's not a fake wizard. He's just a fake person.
Right. And that's kind of the point I was getting at. You know what I mean? Like, he's not fake in that he is a wizard, but he's, But
that's still my point is it's kind of a douchey thing for Dumbledore to be like, yeah, you still have to, like, for the Weasleys that are fucking poor as shit, they have to buy all 8 of those books times 5.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Like, you want to get into the poor and not poor, and yes, the Weasleys are poor. I'm not arguing that. But, like, Harry's fucking loaded.
Right.
Like, loaded. And it never really gets addressed past the first one.
That he's loaded? In
the
movies, you mean?
Yeah.
True. And in the books, there's actually a theory of, one, why he's got so much fucking money.
Well, his father was loaded. You said that earlier.
What?
You said his father was loaded. Like, his father had a shit ton of money.
His father was loaded. The theory is that the original Potters created the Golden Snitch. So they've been receiving royalties for fucking ever, which is why also James Potter and Harry Potter are so natural at being seekers for Quidditch.
Gotcha.
So that's why they get their fucking inheritance. Also, Harry does get more money from Sirius when Sirius dies.
Yes. Yeah, he gets the house, too, if I recall.
He gets the house, which is also important because, and I was also talking to Steph about this, is that the fact that it went to Harry was kind of like it was the first time it hadn't gone to a black.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it actually, if Harry, I remember this now, if Harry had said no to getting Grimmauld Place, which is a play on Grim Old Place, that it would have gone to Bellatrix Lestrange, played by Helena Bonham Carter.
Right.
Because she's a cousin of Sirius Black.
Another great casting, by the way. She nailed that.
I think she nailed the fucking role. Steph pointed out that she's like, her voice was too high-pitched. It was kind of like a British Harley Quinn. And I kind of have to agree because, I mean, it's fine. She does the craziness fucking perfectly, but the look is very spot on. But the voice was kind of a little bit more shrill than it was in the books. In the books, it's just kind of husky. You know what I mean?
Yeah, how do you even know
throaty.
that? I mean,
they describe it. They describe how she's got kind of a throaty kind of smoker's voice type of thing.
Which she can do because you see that in Fight Club. So she's capable of doing that voice. Yeah.
But I still, I mean, the rest of the performance is still fucking amazing.
Yeah. No. We're neither of us are taking away from her. We're just saying,
Jason Isaacs as Lucius Malfoy. Actually, everything that he did to expand as Malfoy's father actually worked even infinitely better because they don't actually describe what Lucius Malfoy kind of looks like, apart from the fact that he looks like Draco a little bit. But they don't specify he's got long blonde hair. They don't specify he's got a cane. And that was all Isaac's idea.
Do you think, yes, I'm not taking away from him, but do you think that they went blonde specifically because Tom Felton is a blonde?
No. Well, Tom Felton's not a blonde. They bleached his hair blonde because in the book, Draco Malfoy is described as having very white blonde hair.
Well, no, Tom Felton is a blonde though, because when he shows up on Flash, he's more of a dirty blonde. He's not that blonde. I agree. I'm not
platinum. Yeah.
No. But
well, they made him. Well, in the book, they say he's got blonde. They say Lucius Malfoy has blonde hair, but they never specified this long kind of
the length,
aristocratic length of it.
Right.
And that was all Jason Isaacs, which I was like, that's fucking great. What he did to expand the character was fine. That was all his idea to have like the his wand in his cane, which works for the character, but it would be impractical because he's constantly like pushing his cane like up against people. And if you knew the wand's in there, just grab the fucking thing and twist it off, and then his fucking wand is out.
Well, if you knew though, that's the thing.
Knew. Well, he breaks it out and waves it around like an asshole half the time. So, you talked about the casting of some of the staff. I don't agree with the guy who plays Slughorn. The professor,
the maintenance guy, right?
The what?
That's the maintenance guy?
No. The potions guy who replaces Snape in the 6th year. Played by Jim Broadbent, that very tweety kind of, good.
I'd actually have to see him again. That one, I'm struggling to visualize that, but yeah.
He's the guy that Harry's got to convince him to get the memory of when Voldemort, as a 16-year-old or whatever, or younger, asked him.
Yeah. I know. Yes, but from a story perspective, if I recall, he was really hired more to help with the situation as opposed to, yes, he's hired to teach that class, but that character's there more for that purpose than to teach the class. So for that reason, I think he does okay.
No. You misunderstand. I mean, well, one, he's hired so that Dumbledore could have him close by,
right?
So that Harry can get that memory.
Exactly.
Because,
that's.
But I'm talking about the actor.
I like the actor in that role.
I like the actor, but he's not who I would pick. In the book, he's described as looking like a walrus. He's short. He's very fat. He's got a big ass bushy mustache.
So you almost get the guy who played Mad-Eye Mooney for that role. Then, if you're
who would have been perfect? Bob Hoskins.
If he was alive, I think he was dead by then.
No, he wasn't dead by then, but he eventually did die a couple years later.
Yeah.
Depending, who knows if he would have fucking lived or if he would have fucking died. I don't know.
Sure.
But he would have been perfect because at no point did they even fucking mention that Slughorn is a Slytherin, in the movies.
Right.
That he's technically, like, he kind of is one of the least prejudiced Slytherins.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But they don't touch upon it.
Well, and
just kind of make him this bumbling, tweety, you look very much like your father. Kind of aloof and like blue.
You mentioned the prejudice, and they start to really focus on that in the last several movies between the Muggles and the even that to use their term, the Mudbloods.
Yeah, the Muggleborns, or even the Half-Bloods.
Right, the Mudbloods. That's what Draco keeps calling Hermione.
Right, which I like. It's an interesting comparison in the second book and in the second movie, Chamber of Secrets, when he calls her that. Hermione in the movie knows what that means.
Right.
And she's offended. In the book, she actually doesn't know what that means. And she's like, well, I don't know what it means, but I know it was very rude. And Ron and Hagrid have to explain to her that basically she was called the N-word for Muggle-borns.
Well, and that's the thing. And I texted you as I was getting to the end of the movies, in the series, that it's very Nazi-like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Voldemort is definitely like the head of the wizard supremacists,
Forget him. Just even before Bill Nye, and again, another heavy hitter, Bill Nye takes over as the Minister of Magic by the end of the thing. But the Minister of Magic before him,
Fudge?
Yeah, like him and Umbridge are fucking terrible people.
Umbridge for sure is, I mean, I said on Twitter, but like when I started watching the 5th movie, I was like, holy fuck, this is so close to the Trump administration. It's really scary.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing.
It's this incompetent, bumbling. I mean, Fudge isn't exactly racist in the books. He's just incompetent.
Right.
What he's afraid of is Dumbledore, not Voldemort, Dumbledore
taking over,
to overthrow him.
Yeah. That comes across in the movie. At least to me, it did.
It did. Yeah, it does. But him having see, here's the thing. I would say Fudge is not a racist or a pure bloodist, but Umbridge for sure is. And when he has Umbridge,
and so is Lucius.
Lucius for sure is, but that's not what I'm talking about. When around Deathly Hallows, when they infiltrate the Ministry of Magic, and that's when it becomes super corrupt and racist as fuck. That's not Fudge. That's not Fudge running the Ministry of Magic.
No, but
that's not Bill Nye either.
No. Yeah, no. Bill Nye seems to be trying to take over and bring it back to the way it's supposed to be,
but his character is killed.
Right. Well, I was getting to that. You just
Right.
But it's very. Here's the thing that. All right, see, and you and I are probably gonna. I don't know. We're gonna disagree. Disagree is the wrong word, but you and I are gonna view this very differently. I think that knowing what J.K. Rowling has said recently and watching that sequence is very hard now because it feels that she's very much in that same camp herself, the person.
What do you mean? That
she's come out very anti-trans. Very anti-trans.
I've heard a little bit about that.
I've read the statements. They're just shy of like saying the equivalent of the N-word to the trans community.
Right. I have not seen enough. I've heard rumblings about that. I don't know enough of what JK, like her words and what she has said about the trans community. If you're saying it's as bad as it is, then it's pretty bad. And I'm not defending anything what she's saying. It's
basic. I don't have the exact comments, so I'm not going to sit here and say I know exactly what it is, but I have read them previously, and it's basically, if you're born a woman, stay a woman. If you're a man, stay a man. This transition thing is not a good thing to be doing. But it's much harsher. It's not that just plain and simple. Like it's very, it's pretty bad.
Which is really surprising because
I was surprised too, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because to write these, it almost makes me feel like she's closer to that other side of this that we were talking about. Like she's closer to the pure blood end of it than the Muggle mudblood end of it, and that's a little surprising. But it also makes sense because of how, as we already mentioned, it's very Nazi-esque. You know.
Well, look, we have to. Again, I am not defending J.K. Rowling, but I will say this. Every author has to have a little bit of darkness and good in them to be able to convincingly write an evil villain. You have to have a little bit of darkness. You could be vehemently against the darkness, but you still have to have thought those thoughts in a fictional sense convincingly enough to make it be like, this is bad. Like, Voldemort is a fantastic villain because let's be honest, he is Hitler in the sense that he is all about pure bloodedness. He's all about, Aryan type of ideology. But if you look at it, Voldemort is actually a half-blood. His father was a Muggle. They never talk about that in the movies. The conception is that he is pure blood, which is why he's going to strive for this pure bloodedness. But in the books, specifically in the 6th book, Half-Blood Prince, they talk about when they do the memories, when Dumbledore is showing Harry the memories of Voldemort's origin. You know what I'm talking about?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
When Dumbledore and Harry are going through those memories of the origin of Voldemort in the Half-Blood Prince, the 6th book movie.
Yeah.
In the books, there's actually way more memories. And they actually show a memory of a wizard who works for the ministry making a house call to Voldemort's grandfather and his mother and his uncle's house, the Gaunts. That's their surname is Gaunt.
Okay.
So you got Volo Gaunt, Marope Gaunt, stuff like that. And it shows this memory of this wizard official going there and saying, your son attacked a Muggle. And it turns out it was actually Tom Riddle Sr., because Voldemort's name is Tom Riddle Jr., essentially. So, in the book, it's revealed that Voldemort's mother was so infatuated with this muggle, Tom Riddle, who was very wealthy and lived sort of yonder, nearby, in this sort of vast mansion. And she left the abusive, racist, kind of inbred family that she was a part of and gave Tom Riddle a love potion and coerced him into marrying her and fathering a child of Voldemort. And that's sort of the whole point of Voldemort as a character. One, doesn't understand the concept of love, and two, doesn't think it's worthwhile. He because his character is created out of deception of love. It's a love potion or an Imperious curse type of thing is manipulation and control. It's not real love. It's obsession and it's the worst type of affection, if you get what I'm saying. So the fact that he's the product of that goes with his character of why he doesn't understand love, why he doesn't understand human connection. Right. And that was such a fascinating thing to deep dive in the books and then have it really kind of stricken from the movies, was this deep understanding of why is Voldemort such a piece of shit. He screams pure-blooded kind of ideology, just like in a weird roundabout way, Hitler was all about the Aryan look. Blonde, blue eyes, but when you look at Hitler, he had black hair.
Yes,
he didn't look Aryan.
I think he had brown eyes too, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, he was as un-Aryan as you could fucking look.
Yeah,
but he was the poster boy of we gotta be. And same thing with Voldemort. He's half blood, but he's like, we all have to be pure blood. It's like, well, you're not.
So,
and to a degree, neither is Snape.
I found all the comments. If you want me to give you the specifics.
Oh, I'm curious. Sure.
Okay, so. It all starts with a woman named Maya Forstater. She was a visiting fellow at the think tank called the Center for Global Development. But her contract was not renewed after she tweeted that transgender women could not change their biological sex and was accused of using offensive and exclusionary language to oppose proposed reforms of the Gender Recognition Act in England that allowed people to self-identify as the opposite sex. Okay. Right? J.K. Rowling tweeted in support of this woman, saying, dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consulting adult who will have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real. # I stand with Maya.
Eesh.
Yeah.
I mean...
So that's me reading verbatim what happened. This is not me I'm not giving an opinion.
You're not projecting. You're reading the facts.
I'm reading directly from J.K. Rowling's Twitter feed that was done on December 19th, 2019.
Yeah, and she's gotten shit for that. But and it's surprising because she very clearly establishes if you believe in pure blood racist bullshit, you're a bad guy. You're always, sided with the evil
right, and
souls.
Now I'm speaking my opinion and my only. This has nothing to do with things I've read online, but my thought was that, to your point, maybe she can write that well because she stands on that side of the line.
I mean, I think she's got some prejudice for sure. I think then she throws us a fucking curveball and she's like, well, of course Dumbledore's gay. And it's so not a big deal.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right, because and this is where it gets muddled, no pun intended. But she says, sleep with who you want and be who you want in terms of if you want to be gay, be gay. She's got no problem with that, but it's the trans specific part of it that she has a problem with.
Right.
And that's the so it's almost like the mudblood. Either be pure blood or be a muggle, but don't be a mudblood. You know what I mean?
You make an interesting point because there's another thing like the caretaker Filch that like
That dude's
Weasley
weird.
janitor.
I never liked that character. I just didn't. Maybe he's better in the books, but in the movies, I never liked that character.
Well, first off, that is spot on casting. How that guy plays him is perfect.
Oh, I'm
That's
sure.
exactly how Filch is in the fucking. They kind of camp him up and make him kind of a doofus, sort of in the later movies.
A little bit, yeah.
But we find out that he is what is known as a squib.
Right.
And a squib, sort of going with this transgender kind of analogy, is someone who is from a wizarding family,
Who
but has
doesn't
no
have
magical powers.
Yes.
And he tries to actually learn, like through like books on how to become a wizard. Like teach yourself how to do easy spells. Like take you may be a squib, but you can still do magic. And ultimately, it shows that by defending your point, it doesn't work.
Right.
That's, I think, what JK is kind of. If there's any, I think it's more that than less than the pureblood ideology thing
That's
that you're
fair.
arguing.
That's fair.
I think the squib thing is more blatant about but it's also the opposite of what Hermione is. Hermione doesn't come from it's so weird because
Right.
she employs that Hermione is one of the smartest and most talented witches without having a drop of magical blood before her.
Right, but here's the thing, and I would defend JK in that example solely, right? Is Hermione's not trying to become a muggle. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas
she's a muggle who's trying to become a witch.
No. She's not a muggle.
Well, she was raised as a muggle.
But raised as her nature is to be a witch, right? So she's not trying to become a muggle. She's not a witch trying to become a muggle. Whereas this guy, the caretaker, Filch, is a muggle trying to become a wizard.
Sort of, in a roundabout way. Which, by the way, I've always wondered, what is the fucking point of Filch, apart from being a guy who can administer, punishments? Like, in the movie,
and hang signs.
He can't do magic. He can't do magic. Excuse me.
That's going into blooper reel.
Magic, yeah. He can't do magic. He can't do magic, but his whole job is to clean the whole fucking castle, where anybody who has a wand could just be like, fucking cleanio revelio, and fucking, wash the fucking castle. They can do all that shit. They can, if something's broken, like, what's the fucking point of that guy? And it explains why he's so bitter, because he can't do magic, and he's in a school. It's like, imagine you have the inability to watch a movie or something, and you work at a movie theater and you're deaf and blind. You're like, well, fuck.
Right.
You're all enjoying this shit. Why the fuck am I working here? But I think it's like, and that's why I'm like, Dumbledore's kind of a dick. Like, Dumbledore gave this guy a job. Good for him. But he's also like, it's like having a diabetic work at Willy Wonka's factory.
I get it, but yes, I get the point you're making, so I'm not saying you're wrong. But my thinking is that it was with the best of intentions. Like, you can't be a wizard, but at least let it make you feel included because you want to be a part, as opposed to, do you know what I'm saying? I get your point, and you really could look at it from either way. It really can be looked at either way, so I'm not saying you're wrong.
Look, in terms of weird, horrendous shit that J.K. Rowling has said, that's the worst of the transgender thing. But she also has been like really fucking with the fan community of her fucking thing that she created. She did one recently that everyone was like, what the fuck, J.K., you are fucking batshit. Someone asked her, hey, indoor plumbing was invented in this year, but Hogwarts and Wizard World, by your canon, has been around about 200 years before that. What'd they do? And she said, oh, well, witches and wizards would just do their business wherever they're standing and then just wave their wand and hide the evidence. Like, just transport the piss and shit.
No.
Oh, wait.
There's bathrooms in there.
Now?
Yeah. Oh, she's saying prior to the invention of plumbing.
Because Hogwarts wasn't, like, around the beginning of wizardry.
Sure.
It was, like, a couple hundred years after or so. But I'm saying, but let's just touch what she fucking said. That means you and I are wizards, right? And we're having a conversation, and I got to take a shit. I just shit where I'm standing, maintaining eye contact with you.
While
and
talking.
You're what?
While talking.
While talking, just going at it. And you're so, like, this is normal because there's no toiletries, there's no plumbing. So you're just fine with it. And I'm shitting my britches. And then all of a sudden I wave my fucking wand, I say, hido shitto, and fucking then it just goes away. I don't know if it's melted through a magic or if it's transported to some poor muggle's bathroom. Or maybe that's what it is. That whenever you like go to your bathroom, like you see a floater that you're like, I thought I flushed this shit. It's a witch who fucking transported that crap.
You know, if I had any set of real balls, I would call this episode Hido Shitto.
Hido Shitto.
Oh man, that might be the best thing that came out of this whole episode.
But that's a weird fucking thing.
No, it is. It is for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like we couldn't do this episode. We couldn't talk about this without at least referencing that this has happened.
And it's you're right, because there's the dark wizards like Voldemort and Lucius Malfoy and Bellatrix Lestrange, and you're like, all right, those are the Nazis. We get they're bad. We get they're racist. And then you get like Umbridge, who is like is a ministry official who's now being a school official, who has the same ideology without being a Death Eater,
right?
Or a member of Voldemort's fucking inner circle.
Well, she kind of is, though, isn't she?
No.
Oh.
No. She has no idea, to a certain degree, that Voldemort has like infiltrated the Ministry.
That almost makes her worse.
It makes her entirely worse. That she is a racist despite not being in Slytherin. And that's a cool thing to acknowledge too, is that it's not just Slytherins that turn out evil.
Oh,
and
sure.
It's not just, and people that go to Slytherin aren't always evil. Best example is, and they really didn't touch on this in the fucking movie. Despite the fact that they split Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, they still left at a really important thing, which was the RAB, the initials of RAB. They tell who it is, but they don't really fucking cover it as much as they should have, which is Sirius Black's younger brother, Regulus Arcturus Black, who was a Slytherin and did go into the Death Eaters. He followed Voldemort's reign when Voldemort was first in power. Before Harry was born.
Yeah.
The first Order of the Phoenix and the first Death Eaters and all that shit. And then he got disillusioned with what Voldemort was doing, found out about the Horcruxes, and went with Creature, that raggedy ass fucking house elf who works for the Black family.
Yeah.
Took him to that location where the locket is, with the river and the fucking zombies. And has Creature do to him what Harry does to Dumbledore, constantly forcing the potion down his throat and making him reliving the most traumatic events in his life. That's what Dumbledore is seeing. When he's drinking that potion, he's actually witnessing in his own mind the duel that he and Grindelwald and his brother have, which they don't talk about in the movies. When Dumbledore was young, there's a whole reason why I'm expanding on this story. When Dumbledore was young, his father was sent to Azkaban for attacking some Muggle boys. The reason why is because the Muggle boys attacked, and they don't specify how, Dumbledore's youngest sister, Ariana.
Right.
Who some believe was a squib, because when witches and wizards are young, without any training, before they go to Hogwarts, they're just kind of like fireworks that explode magic randomly.
Sure.
And J.K. Rowling has expanded on that with the whole, I'm blanking on what it's called, but it's that thing that is expanded in Fantastic Beasts that not the Flash is. The, what is it called? I don't remember
the first movie that well, the first Fantastic Beasts movie that well, and I didn't get a chance to rewatch it for our
But you saw Grindelwald.
I
yeah?
did see Grindelwald. Yeah.
Okay. Whatever that. It's on the tip of my tongue, but let me. As I'm looking it up, I'll expand.
Well.
So there's.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
There's a duel. Because now Dumbledore has to. Now he's the breadwinner, right? Because his father's sent to Azkaban and the mother dies. I think by an accident. So now Dumbledore, the height of his, he's now one of the most renowned wizards of his time. He's forced to go back and raise his mentally disturbed younger sister. And when Dumbledore was younger, he met Grindelwald, who was visiting his aunt in Godric's Hollow, where they lived.
Okay, see, and maybe this is the point you're getting to, but that movie makes it seem very different.
I know.
Okay.
And I think they're going to expand on all this shit when the other... Oh, it's called an obscurus. That's the thing that not the Flash fucking is. It's someone who suppresses their magic so much that it actually becomes like a parasite.
Okay.
And it eventually consumes the wizard and kills them. And usually it makes them only so old. Like no one over 12 can survive it. But fucking Ezra Miller's character does. But we'll talk about that later. The point I was making, so Dumbledore and Grindelwald became very close friends and actually both agreed on the same ideology, which was Muggles need to be put in their place and wizards need to rule over them.
Okay.
So and they touch all this in the Deathly Hallows book. Do you remember that reporter in the fourth one, Rita Skeeter?
Yes. She also writes the book about Dumbledore later in Deathly Hallows, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see a very brief cameo where he picks up the book at the Snake Lady's house. Remember?
Yes. Yeah.
So that Snake Lady, who's obviously dead, it's a curse where the snake Nagini is taken over the body of that woman.
Right.
That woman is Grindelwald's aunt.
Okay.
Mathilda Bagshot. She's actually the woman who wrote his Hogwarts: A History. She's like a really well-known journalist and well-renowned. So Rita Skeeter, despite as much as she's a tabloidist, was more or less correct that Dumbledore had racist ideology with Grindelwald when he was younger. Grindelwald and Albus and his brother Aberforth, who they kind of allude to in the books, has this weird sexual obsession with goats. I'm not even bullshitting.
That's interesting.
Dumbledore's brother got in a lot of legal trouble because it was found out that he was using magic improperly on goats. Take that how you will, but he's that weird younger fucking brother who liked to fuck goats.
See, now, wait, and I need... all right, I feel like there's more you want to say, and that's fine. I'm not trying to tell you you can't, but I need to jump in because I got into a point of confusion watching Grindelwald.
Mm-hmm.
Especially towards the end.
Yeah, tell me. I'll try and clarify as much as I can.
So, spoiler, I mean, obviously we've been spoiling all of this, but especially with Grindelwald being the newest of them, spoiler alert. But if I understood correctly, it turns out that Ezra Miller's character, and we'll get into that douchebag in a little bit, but that he is Dumbledore's younger brother, ultimately.
The long-lost Dumbledore.
Okay, so you phrasing it that way might have already answered my question, but I'm still going to ask it anyway, both for you and for the audience, right? Mm-hmm. At one point in Deathly Hallows, and I think it's only the second one, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, you meet another Dumbledore, and you meet his brother. You meet a brother, we'll put it that way.
The goat fucker.
That's the goat. Okay, now is that also Ezra Miller?
No.
Okay, that's where I got confused. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. First off, if I could ever say the weakest of the Harry Potter franchise, including the Fantastic Beasts movies, Crimes of Grindelwald is an atrocity. Like, I can complain about 3 and 4 of leaving shit out that I really liked and yada, yada, yada. But Crimes of Grindelwald is just a crime in itself because it's just a bad movie.
I'll be honest, I actually enjoyed it.
Well, that's fine. I think non-fans can enjoy it because, one, there's really no literary source to compare it to.
Right, because Deb and I were talking about that after we watched it, yeah.
And I think that's kind of one reason why I'm like just not as into the Fantastic Beasts movies.
Sure.
I mean, I liked Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I actually kind of thoroughly enjoyed the first one because it was a fresh, original take. Because the Fantastic Beasts book in the Harry Potter franchise is literally just a textbook of like of what magical beasts are. It's like a zoology book, but for like nifflers and hippogriffs and griffins and shit like that. So it's not a real thing. It's sort of a kitschy textbook gimmick that they're going to expand into a movie.
And at one point, you actually see Harry like open that book or move the book or something in one of the other. The book appears in the Harry Potter. It's very brief, but it's there.
Maybe, but a lot of people actually confuse that with the Big Book of Monsters. That's like that ravenous, wild book thing that is in the third movie that he's got to like. Maybe
that's what I'm doing. Maybe
the one that attacks him and he's got to stomp on it and wrap it up close.
Yeah. I have to think about it, but you might be right.
That's not the same book. It's but that's my point. Is people thought it was that they thought that's what people were referring to. So going back to Dumbledore, Aberforth, his actual brother that we do know,
right?
The goat fucker, and Grindelwald all have a fucking duel. And someone, it's never been established who because no one knows yet, someone accidentally hit Ariana, the daughter, the little sister.
Yes.
And killed her.
Yes, I knew that.
And that is not even really touched upon in Deathly Hallows. It's just alluded to. And in the chaos, Grindelwald then leaves because he fucked up. And then Dumbledore is like convinced that it could have been him. It could have been him accidentally killing his younger sister. And they're even going into exploration of why Dumbledore has such a very crooked, broken nose, because at the funeral, Aberforth fucking swung at him and broke his fucking nose.
I remember that, yeah.
But that's only, I think, listed in the book. It's not.
Well, then maybe Deb told me, but I do know that
Deb
information.
Deb probably told you.
Yeah.
So then it's the whole thing that I have a problem with the Aurelius Dumbledore, the Ezra Miller character, is I'll give you 2 points. One, it could be bullshit. It could very well be a fucking lie that Grindelwald is saying to manipulate Credence Barebone to try and get at Dumbledore.
Sure.
But then there's factors that kind of support that it is a long-lost brother. The whole thing about how a phoenix will go to a Dumbledore.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
And the whole baby swapping thing, yada, 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 which was fucking ridiculous. I mean, it's a dark-ass movie where, like, there's 2 babies in that movie that die.
There were a couple of things that I liked that they tied that to try to tie the 2 series together.
Like?
And I'll get into that. Well, yeah, but I'll tell you that now. But remind me, I do have a problem. We talked about the great casting in the Harry Potter movies. I have some issue with some of the casting in this one, but we'll get to that. Okay. And it's not Ezra Miller because he's a douchebag. It's other stuff. Okay. But there were a couple of things I noticed that I thought were good ways to tie it together. So the one you just mentioned, why am I blanking all of a sudden? God damn it, I'm tired. With the babies. So there's the flashback of Dumbledore teaching his class and doing exactly the same thing that I think Lupin did when he taught his class with the mirror and
fighting the Boggart. Yeah.
Yes. So like that was a nice throwback, I thought,
Right. Which was interesting because that shows that because it's kind of established that while Dumbledore was teaching at Hogwarts, he was actually the Transfiguration teacher, the one that McGonagall does.
Right.
But in that film, it shows him doing Defense Against the Dark Arts. But then in Crimes of Grindelwald, they actually say, like...
Well, that was Grindelwald. Did they do that?
You know, that's what I'm saying. In Grindelwald, in that movie, they actually, like, some fucking Hogwarts official or Ministry of Magic official tells Dumbledore he can never teach Defense Against the Dark Arts, which then he says, all right, well, fine, I'll do Transfiguration.
Okay, right.
So that was not established in the books.
So but there's that. God, I'm sorry.
No. The whole thing is that Dumbledore's life is really, really covered in the book. In Deathly Hallows, they really deep dove into Dumbledore's fucking history.
Well, maybe they're using...
Never once, ever, did they ever establish that there was another long-lost Dumbledore.
And maybe that's what they're using this Fantastic Beast to expand upon. But, so, the other things that was, like, you see the wand. The
Elder Wand.
Yes, you see Grindelwald's got it.
Right.
You see the Sorcerer's Stone and the guy who's been using it.
Nicholas Flamel, which kind of unneeded.
Maybe unneeded, but it was a nice way to tie the two series together.
Sure, and it's fine.
You know, because I think that one of the complaints I'd heard after the first Fantastic Beast was that other than the fact that they were using the same terms, you know, like Muggles, and not even that because they're in America, they don't call them Muggles in America, but
they call them No-Maj.
Right. But to have the same concepts and some of the same terms, you know.
Yeah, it's an expansion of Harry Potter. It's not about Harry Potter.
Right. And this made the world a little more well-rounded and connect the two franchises together, if you will. You know, my casting issue is, and I hate to say it, is Eddie Redmayne. Like,
really?
And my issue with it is not because I say anything bad about him. Like, I don't have a problem with him, the person, right? But I've only seen him in a handful of things, including the two Fantastic Beasts movies.
Right.
I've seen him in those two. I've seen him in Jupiter Ascending, which I don't even remember him in.
He plays like a weird...
They all play weird. That doesn't...
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But then I also saw him in the Theory of Everything, where he plays Stephen Hawking. And to me, Newt Scamander and Stephen Hawking, minus the Lou Gehrig's disease, is the same goddamn character.
You know, let me say this. And at no point am I ever trying to be disrespectful, okay?
Sure.
If there was ever a wizard that was autistic, it would be Newt Scamander.
I could see that, sure, yeah.
I think they are portraying it as such because there's a lot of he doesn't really kind of understand wizards. He doesn't really understand the people around him. He cares more about the animals.
Right.
And he's also kind of aware that he comes off a little off. You know, he's aware that he annoys people. You'll never hear me say autistic people are stupid. They're actually fucking intelligent.
Very intelligent. Yes, absolutely. I've both of us have experienced working with them, and then I have a couple in our family, so I know. Yeah.
But even the way, I kind of appreciate that weird way of doing it because even Eddie Redmayne's Newt like never stands up straight.
Nope.
To look at somebody in the eye.
Nope.
This is kind of weird head tilt thing where he doesn't look anybody in the eye, which is an autistic thing to do.
No, and so maybe I'm being too critical, but it just feels like a one-trick pony kind of thing. Like we talk about how diverse Johnny Depp is and how diverse, you know, like a Gary Oldman is, you know, and this feels like it's just another permeation of the same character. You know what I mean?
I mean, here's the thing. I would like to see them expand more, and I'd like to see him grow as a character. But if they're establishing that he is quote-unquote autistic, then they're not going to get any real growth. You know,
No.
Unfortunately, people with autism don't kind of get out of it. They're that forever.
He would actually, here's how I would classify him, and this term is no longer used, and I understand that. So anyone listening to this, please understand that I'm only using this as a line of delineation, but I understand that's no longer the PC term. He would be what probably classified as Asperger's. Now that's no longer a thing. You're just on a higher level of the scale, the spectrum. So believe me when
I would agree.
Yeah, he's closer to that end of things than
he's not Rain Man,
no,
so to speak.
No.
He is very high functioning autism.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Because he's a wizard and he's very, to
your point,
adept.
he's very intelligent. He's just
very intelligent.
He's very awkward,
adept.
but he's also very awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the sense that, and he has to he's not, doesn't fall that in the sense of like, if things don't go his way, he's not beating the shit out of himself. He's not like Rain Man. He's if he misses fucking Wapner, he's not going to have a fit.
Yeah. No, not at all. The other, did you have more? Because I was going to move on to another point because I don't want to beat that to death too much.
No. Let's move on.
Well, the only thing I was going to say was and look, the guy did a fine job. The actor I'm about to talk about, I don't remember his name, and I hate to be disrespectful like that, but he plays the fat American friend of his.
The character's name is Jacob Kowalski.
Yes, I don't remember the actor's name.
I do vaguely remember the. Give me just 1 second.
While you're looking it up, I'll say my point, and then you can.
Dan Fogler.
Okay, and he does a fine job. Don't get me wrong. Like
he's great in the movies.
Right, I have no objection, but I would love to have seen Josh Gad in that role because I think he would have killed it.
Gad was offered. So was Michael Cera. They didn't specify he had to be an overweight character. They just wanted a bumbling New York type.
Michael Cera feels like he would have been better in the Newt Scamander role.
Or as a brother, or playing Newt Scamander when he was like 12.
Sure, something like that. Yeah,
right.
Even in that same vein, Jesse
Eisenberg.
would have been a good Newt.
Yeah. I like Dan Fogler, and that's the point.
That's why I wanted. Go ahead. Sorry.
There is a big transition from Fantastic Beasts 1 to Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yes.
Because, we talk about some of the worst things J.K. Rowling has said or written or done or just the weirdest shit she's posted. She wrote the screenplays for Fantastic Beasts 1 and Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yes.
This is all her.
Yeah, this is all her.
And the fact that she's kind of like rewriting her own fucking history and franchise is kind of pissing off the fans. When it's revealed that, Ezra Miller is a long-lost Dumbledore, allegedly, that pissed off so many fucking fans, dude. So many goddamn fans, including me. Not to mention, I have a fucking problem with the fact that, like, Grindelwald is, like, tells him, hands him a wand, and then Credence fucking just, like, blasts a hole out of the dude's window and like destroys a fucking mountain.
Yeah, it was a little odd too.
I was like, you're kind of a dick to your host, dude.
Yeah. But I loved, and this is just me, I think. I'm probably in the minority, I would imagine, but I really enjoyed Jude Law's portrayal of young Dumbledore. Like I
did too.
I thought he was well done. I think it sets the stage for what we know the character to be later.
It's funny you say that because I agree. Jude Law was a very good young Dumbledore. I still think Jared Harris, we talked about earlier, Richard Harris's son, could have done a good job too.
No doubt. But I really enjoyed Jude Law's. But I'm also a big fan of Jude Law. So
Well, here's what I think. It's ironic because Jude Law apparently was like studying Michael Gambon's performances in movies 3 all the way to Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Sure.
But if I had to argue, he's more closer to Richard Harris's portrayal.
No, well, I don't know about closer. I thought it was a good hybrid, and that's what I liked about it. Do you know what I mean?
I could agree with that.
I think he leans Gambon, but there, like to your point, there is Harris in there too.
Well, my problem with Gambon compared to Harris is that Gambon is just angrier as a Dumbledore. The biggest thing, and us Harry Potter fans, we will never let this shit go. Ever in a million butt fucking years.
See, my issue between the two. Oh God, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I didn't tell you what it was. In Goblet of Fire, in the book, Dumbledore says very calmly after Harry's name is chosen as the 4th champion, which shocks the fuck out of everybody.
Yeah.
Dumbledore calmly, and it's emphasized on calmly, says, "Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" Because that's what Dumbledore is. He's calm. He's eccentric as all hell.
Right.
But he's cool and calm, and when he raises his voice, it's not even him yelling or shouting. It's just his voice is just that gravitas of power, and you pay attention to them. But instead, Michael Gambon's version runs up and screams in Harry's face, grabs him by the robes, and pushes his ass against the walls like, "Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" You're like, "Oh, whoa, dude!"
Right, but that could be a directorial.
And I'm
choice.
saying that I don't give a fuck who to blame. That is just one of the worst fucking things. You want to talk about the biggest comparison of what the not Dumbledore thing to do? That is it. That was it.
What I didn't like about the two, and we probably should start wrapping up. I was going to get into the Horcruxes, but I feel like that's another 3 hours, and I don't feel like doing that.
I think we could talk about it briefly. I think if you have questions, I can answer them.
No, I don't have questions. I didn't like the whole concept. Like, I just didn't like any of it. But
Why?
It just seemed, I don't know. It honestly, it bored me.
It bored you because you didn't read the book.
Yeah, probably.
But
anyway,
truth.
Okay, fair enough. But getting back to my issue between the two Dumbledores was what I liked about Harris's portrayal versus Gambon's is Harris came across as the old wise mentor role.
The soft-spoken Gandalf.
Yes, yeah, that's and Gambon was more like the action hero, like do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even worried about the anger. Like, I get your point. I'm not discrediting it, but I'm saying like he was running. He was like it almost Harris. The way he moved Dumbledore was almost like he was floating. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so he was never going to move fast. He would have been able to do that. What's that shit called? Where you like
apparition? He
would have been able to do that still, and I wouldn't have had a problem with that. But like when he's walking across the room or walking down the hall, he's moving at a good clip. Whereas Harris, it almost like like I said, he was like almost like floating down the hallway.
Which is why I kind of appreciate it, because Richard Harris shows the magical, and I emphasize magical. Like you're right. He's kind of floating. He's kind of like.
I mean, he's obviously walking, but the way he delivers it is very,
It's very magical. Even like you look around, there's other wizards that are walking, but like no, this dude's so cool and so powerful and so eccentric. He's like, I'm just gonna fucking slowly float.
Yeah,
that would be a Dumbledore thing to do. And then you get Michael Gambon, who's just, as far as I'm concerned, just a pissed off hippie.
Yeah.
What did you think of Johnny Depp as Grindelwald?
I did like him. But that strictly, for me, that strictly comes like, look, the one thing I like about the Fantastic Beasts movies so far for me is they have well casted the villains.
Villain.
Well, because
you mean Colin Farrell in the first one?
Yeah, because to me,
you could argue he's playing the same guy.
Well, sure, but it's still two different actors.
Yeah.
Portraying two different portions of the character, if you will. So,
and if you pay close attention, there are hints that support. Like there are hints that as you're watching, you'll be like, "Oh, he's definitely Grindelwald."
Well, to be fair, you got to remember. I don't remember the first one very well, and I was not unable to rewatch it for this. So I don't remember a whole lot of the plot or the outcome. I do know what you're talking about, but the hints that you're talking about, I can't pinpoint.
Well, the most obvious thing is the haircut. They have the exact same fucking hairstyle.
Which, yeah.
Which I think Johnny Depp just has that as a regular hairdo anyways.
That wouldn't stun me, no. I am a big fan of Colin Farrell. I am, though. I like him in most things I've seen him in. I think there's one or two things I'm like, but,
I think I said this before, and I'll say it again. I was never a fan of Colin Farrell, but I'm a fan of Colin Farrell now. Like, he has really grown as a fucking actor.
I've always
I think
liked
he's
him.
one of the best parts in Saving Mr. Banks.
Yeah, without question. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. I've liked him going all the way back to when he was in SWAT, and phone booth not so much, but I think that's more because the movie's not so great. Not because
I liked his performance in phone booth.
That's what I'm saying. Like the movie was bad. That wasn't him.
Yeah. But I agree that
even Daredevil when he's Bullseye,
it's hammy. It's a hammy performance, but it's fine.
But it's supposed to be hammy, and he does a good job delivering it. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah. As for Depp, like I'm a massive Depp fan.
So am I. Yeah.
And there was this whole thing of like, because of Amber Heard, like how the fans all of a sudden were like, how dare you cast a wife beater to be a villain in a movie? Like there was a whole boycott against Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling to have Johnny Depp be recast.
Removed. Yeah.
And now, because there is courtroom drama going on, and you and I, we will talk about celebrities' lives and trivia, but we try very hard not to be tabloid people.
Yes, I think we
try very hard to not exaggerate the drama of what they are.
Or if we don't have the facts to back up what we're saying, we don't say it.
But I don't. There is a trial. There is like courtroom drama between Depp and Amber Heard.
Yes.
And now it's kind of being more revealed that she was really the abuser. And
it might have swung the other way. Yeah. You've brought this up before. We've talked about it before from that perspective.
But now he is suing her for $50 million
for the loss of Pirates, I believe.
For the loss of Pirates, and he's saying it's like, you took away money from my kids. Like, I only do this shit so I can provide for my fucking family.
Right.
Although he fucking owns an island too, so go figure.
Right. Sell the island, motherfucker. But I get the point.
But here's the thing: is that if it's proven that Amber Heard actually did lie and falsify evidence, she can go to prison for 3 years.
Oh,
minimum.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Which is
I think she should.
Which is going to put a real damper on Aquaman too. But anyway, that's
really though. I mean, there's a new fucking thing of like recasting her with like Emilia Clarke.
I'm fucking with you anyway. I don't even know who that is, but anyway,
that's the chick from Game of Thrones. That's also she was in she played Sarah Connor in Terminator Genesis.
Oh, she's in Solo. She's Kira.
She's in Solo, yeah.
Okay, I know who that is. Yeah, I could see that.
And she needs to fucking work, man. She hasn't been in shit since those movies.
Since Solo, yeah. I think Solo was her last thing. But
and both Genesis and Solo were like not well received.
Which is a shame because we've talked about Solo's not as bad as it comes across. But anyway, that's another thing. What was I saying? Oh yeah, as far as Depp goes, I'm with you. I'm a huge fan. I've always liked him. The one place you and I will differ is I would have taken a dozen more Pirates movies. I mean, because I just love him playing that character.
I would have taken one more. I'd have taken one more to wrap it up. The way how it ended as it was feels unfinished, and for them to potentially reboot it with a different character and leave that story kind of just unfinished for us, that's what pisses me off. Well, I think it should have. If
he's for lack of a better phrase, exonerated, maybe they'll bring him back now, a la James Gunn for the MCU.
That's the possibility. I hope so. I hope so, just so that he, it's not just I hope he has his career, and it's not just that I hope Amber Heard gets punished. It's also a clear sign that not everybody who claims abuse is telling the truth. Well, and she used that to her cap. I know I'm working on murky ground here.
Yeah,
but when a woman says he beat me, we want to believe them.
Yes, of course.
And we want to write off the abuser. I gotta admit, I kind of was like, "Oh fuck, Johnny, please, no! I respected you so much, please."
And there is audio of him flipping out. Maybe not hitting her, but there's audio of him flipping out, wearing a cowboy hat, and being drunk. I've heard it myself, and I've seen part of the video.
Here was the clicker. I mean, this is as far away from Harry Potter as we're getting, but
this
is the only thing I'll say is that someone released audio recordings of them having a sort of therapy session of just the two of them, meaning Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And she admits numerous times that she hit him.
Yeah. I mean,
But she,
look,
but she says, "I didn't punch you. I hit you," which is like, I didn't abuse. I didn't kill you. I just shot you. Like, what the fuck?
right. And like you said,
Yeah.
we're diving near murky water, so I don't want to
But-
go too much closer.
We'll branch out. But there is another touch of abuse that does deal with another Harry Potter actor, Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
Now, you and I can have our opinions on how he portrayed the Flash. That's not what we're talking about.
Nope.
We're talking about how he... First off, I have to say, I actually dug his performance as Credence in the first movie. I thought it was kind of tragic. He was very kind of sullen. He was crying. I felt sympathy to that character. And especially since, like, Colin Farrell's, like, slapping him in the face. And we know that Colin Farrell's character is Grindelwald in disguise. So he's been manipulating this fucking poor kid. And how he is a weird parasite tornado thing. Like, I feel for him. And he's been abused by this fucking anti-witch woman who beats the shit out of him and yada, yada, yada. And then for the second movie, for him to just kind of be there. And I was like, okay, well, they kind of undid everything about his character that made him interesting.
Sure.
Now he's just, it's like, hey, what's Credence up to? Well, he's in this movie. Yeah, but does he do anything? Well, he's in this movie.
Right.
And then it'd be like the big reveal that he's like, I am dumb. It's like, it's such a weird, like, it's the, like, I am your father, but I am your brother. It's like, what?
Right.
Like, I read the book. You weren't in it. What?
But there's no book for these, you know, so.
No, but my point is they deep dove into Dumbledore's backstory. You can make the argument that there was a long lost Dumbledore brother, but no one knew about him because it was kept in secret. And because they even talk about how Dumbledore fought Grindelwald.
Right.
And they don't go into detail of what it was. They just say it was the most spectacular fight ever for wizards, ever. Before even Voldemort. It was the biggest thing to talk about was Dumbledore versus Grindelwald.
Which we might see someday when they're making the third one or fourth one.
5. They're supposed to be making 5 of these fuckers.
Okay.
Which you could have fucking done it in 2.
Probably. I'll go 3, but I hear you.
I gotta say, like, I love fucking Harry Potter movies and everything, but like this is the most blatant cash grab of the franchise. Ever.
Yeah, no question there.
Like, I'm fine with a theme park, I'm fine with expanding books, I'm fine with Lego sets, but like to make a whole 5-picture fucking movie series about like shit you could do in 3 movies is excessive. And to prove that, Grindelwald is kind of a boring movie, and there's so many added scenes to fill in, like the flashback scenes of Lita Lestrange, played by Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
Like, they put so much emphasis on this character, and then she dies.
Yep.
What the fuck was the point of this character?
I agree.
Like, they even like, oh, we're gonna like Lita Lestrange. She's really important because we talk about her in the first movie, like a lot. And then we show her in the second movie. And then she's going to be like, hey, guys, I got this. I'm going to fight Grindelwald. And then it doesn't work. And she just dies fucking immediately. Like, and she does nothing to change. Like, they still have to run the fuck away before Grindelwald has that. If there's any kitschy lines that I'm like, what the fuck was that? It's when Grindelwald says, I hate Paris. Like, what?
Yeah.
Which is really ironic because Johnny Depp like lived in France forever.
I think he still has a house there.
Yeah, I mean his kids are half French.
Yes. Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of, it was almost like a joke. Like it might have been an ad lib.
It might have
been,
and it might have been his idea because we know from his work with Kevin, he loves ad libbing a little bit and throwing little jokes in. So
right. As for Ezra Miller, on a personal level, that dude's a piece of shit. And I have you want to talk about trans stuff because he identifies as self-identified queer. And he uses different pronouns to refer to himself. He, she, they, them, all that.
Right.
So he's just gender fluid, which you will never hear me say anything negative about that.
Right.
The person believes what they want to believe, and I accept it, and they should accept it. And I am never going to take away their rights. But apparently he there's footage, and I've seen the footage.
So have I.
A fan went up to him and wanted a play fight for like a photo or for someone filming them. And he said, "Oh, you want to fight?" Grabbed her by the throat and threw her to the ground and started strangling her. And then the camera cuts out because they were like, "What the fuck?" And then climbed on top and pulled him off.
Right.
Now he claims he was drunk. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that doesn't make it any better.
That makes it actually worse because that means he would have done it sober, but he had no inhibition to stop himself.
Right.
So I don't give a fuck. Anybody who's in the industry and has fans, you are lucky as fuck that you have a fan. Any fan.
We're lucky we have fans, for fuck's sake.
Dude, I am so... We bust her non-existent balls from time to time because we feel like we can do that. But I am so goddamn grateful for Jay.
So am I.
The fact that like someone gives a fuck by what I have to say and actually, is interested. It's a weird, rare feeling to feel like you're important.
Our 4 biggest fans are clearly Jay, Smoke, Henry, and Rebecca. And not in any particular order. That's just the 4 of them.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
It's the only 4 people that listen to the fucking show. But hey, we're here.
Right. And then for him to take one of his fans and put his hands on her.
Yeah,
it's
an all-around bad
anybody,
luck. It's all around bad luck. It's just bad. So
it's a really bad look, and it's this is kind of funny. During that whole crisis, someone tweeted saying, "I know what he did was wrong, but you still have to respect what to call them because he's queer and he prefers different pronouns to call himself." And this person was trying to be an advocate of like, you need to stop calling him he. You need to respect their pronouns, and they misspelled the pronoun. And I just, I tweeted, I commented, and I did the grammar correct, and I'm like, you mean they or them, spelled correctly. And then she deleted the tweet. I thought that was fucking hysterical, but she was like, yes, you can respect what they want to be called themselves, but that's not what the issue is. We're not saying he's a piece of shit because he's queer or transgendered or whatever. He's a piece of shit because he put his fucking hands on somebody. Right.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with his gender or whatever,
And I really kind of felt like she was missing the whole fucking point.
Probably.
Defending him for the wrong thing.
Yeah. Here's an interesting... I mean, I don't want to start a whole controversial spark here, but if he's as gender fluid as you say he is, because I wasn't familiar with that about him or them or whatever, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful either, I'm just trying to be correct. But if he's that gender fluid, does that mean that JK doesn't want him in the project anymore? Because, I mean, think about it. I mean,
maybe
she doesn't want him in the project anymore because of he put his hands on a fan, so he's screwed himself that way anyway.
We don't know. We don't know what JK's stance on that is because it was only like a week ago that this happened.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. We don't know. But I'm saying if she boots him for that purpose and that purpose alone, then great. No problem. No objections. But
right.
I almost wonder if she's thought, oh, I kind of don't want him for that. And now, oh, I have a reason. Who knows? That's the kind of things you end up having to think about when these stories come out, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that we don't have the facts, and to your point earlier, we're not a tabloid. We try not to report it that way. We don't know, but it makes you wonder.
Steph asked a question, and it's an interesting question. She says, "What if Harry had been raised in a similar way to Credence? What if he was? Here."
My question is, what would you think Harry Potter's story would have been like if he was raised like Credence, where he was continually told that magic is bad and that he had to suppress it, and he created that black mist thing, the Obscurus, rather than growing up in ignorance to magic?
See,
what?
Well, and then how would have that impacted his battle with Voldemort?
CJ, you want to take it?
See, I don't think he was. Like, he didn't go as far as to do the Obscurus, but he, as soon as that first Hogwarts letter arrives in the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone, or whatever, and his uncle sees it, they basically let him know, yeah, you're a magician, but you're never going to go get to use it. Like, essentially, because at one point, the uncle says there will never be magic in this house, and that's before he ever sets foot in Hogwarts.
Well, yes and no. in both the book and the movie, Harry doesn't find out he's a wizard until Hagrid tells him.
Okay, fair enough, but still.
And then from then on, the Dursleys are, we will not have this, riffraff magical nonsense in our household. Yada, yada, yada. So in that sense, they are suppressing the magic.
But they're also not, he's not aware of it, so it's not as much suppression, I don't think.
Now, here's the thing. Remember in the first movie, he lets the boa constrictor go through the glass cage at the zoo?
Yeah.
That is fairly common for witches and wizards when they're kids. Like I said, they can't control their
magical... That's the firework thing you were talking about earlier, yeah.
Right, sort of a magical firework, where it just, when they're angry or scared, it just happens. And, which, by the way, there's a whole thing about Neville, where, like, they reveal how Neville found out that he was a wizard. His uncle dropped him out of a building.
Okay.
And he bounced and was fine. That's how they knew he had magical, powers. That's how they knew he was a wizard. What an evil fucking uncle.
Yeah, right? Fuck.
What a douchebag.
Fuck.
That's like the equivalent of, way back when they were testing witches in the Salem witch trials. It's like, okay, we need to see if this woman's... If she drowns, she was human.
What else floats on water? A duck. If she weighs as much of a duck, she's a witch.
Right.
Yes.
I think I don't particularly. I see Steph's point, but I kind of think that he was. She says he was raised with suppression, but he still was. Ever when he was 11, he's still an adolescent. When he's 11 to 17, he's still not allowed to experiment with magic. But that's actually another fucking point. One of the things that I got pissed off about the movies is their confusing way of saying Harry can't do magic outside of Hogwarts.
Right, well, that's just a rule, I thought.
Right. That's a rule. He can't do magic outside of Hogwarts. Do you remember how the third one opens?
That's with the Dementors, right? And then the trial? Yeah, that was... Yeah.
The trial? No. That's the fifth one.
Okay, then no, I don't know what you're talking about.
The Dementors are in the third one. That's why I got confused. No, the third one, Prisoner of Azkaban, when you see the Warner Brothers logo, it shows him doing Lumos Maxima in his bedroom.
Oh, right, right, yeah.
So he's clearly doing fucking magic.
Yes.
Outside of Hogwarts. Also, in Chamber of Secrets, Hermione does magic in Diagon Alley. She fixes Harry's broken glasses.
No, she does that on the train.
No, in the second one, she fixes his glasses at Diagon Alley.
Oh, in the second one. I'm sorry. I misheard you. Yes, the second one, you're right.
And she fixes his glasses in the first one on the train, too. I think you could kind of argue, well, you're on the train. It's kind of okay to do magic there.
It's a Hogwarts train. I'm going to give a pass to the first one.
Right, because even Ron fucking tries to do magic where he does this stupid made-up fucking spell. Sunshine, daisies, buttermellow, turn this stupid fat rat yellow. Which is fucking stupid of him to even think that would work because he's been surrounded by fucking magic his whole life. He knows that you just say fucking ridiculous, not a fucking goddamn poem.
Yeah, yeah.
If that were the case, then, no wonder they were able to fucking say spells in silence.
Yeah.
That little shit like that, where it's okay, artistically fine, that's funny. Harry, fucking 13 years old, doing magic, and his uncle keep busting in the room, being like, what the fuck is going on? It's all light here, and he's pretending to be asleep. And then you're like, but then, in the 2 movies later, he has to go to trial because he actually did use a spell. And it's like, what? What?
Well, and without getting a deep dive into it, the difference there was apparently the Muggles saw it. They never officially see the spell when the uncle's jumping into the room because the spell's over. They see the flash of light, but they don't see the spell. The one with the nephew or the cousin from Harry's perspective is because he actually sees the spell. But
see, that's the thing where it's so confusing.
Oh, I had a fundamental
wizard.
What's that?
They know he's a wizard.
Right, but I had a fundamental problem with that whole trial thing anyway. So that's another thing.
I had a problem with the fact that Dobby does a hovering charm and Harry gets blamed for it. If
Yeah.
you're telling me they can sense what a fucking spell is near a witch or wizard, and they can actually perform magic where they can show what the previous enchantments were used on that wand. So they would have just said, like, well, you didn't do the hover charm. It was clearly someone else. Oh, you say it was a house elf. That's fucking weird. We should do an investigation on that fucking thing.
Yeah.
But no, they're like, we're going to send your ass a letter as a warning. In front of the fucking muggles. They're like, you're not allowed to show magic in front of muggles, but we're going to have a fucking owl fly in, drop a fucking letter, and then that letter's going to fucking speak and say, in a woman's voice, like, you have been caught doing magic. It's like, that's fucking magic!
Right. There's a lot of there's some plot holes, but
So many plot holes, you could drive the fucking firebolt through that cocksucker.
CJ here with a few thank yous and to let you know how you can get in touch with and follow the show and us. Listen to us on the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you find your podcasts. Please don't forget to rate and comment. PodAskew is a member of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Visit their website, bigheadsmedia.com, and follow them on Twitter @BigHeadsMedia. If you want to agree with or yell at us, follow Rico, me, and the show on Twitter. The show is @PodAskew, Rico is @RantsRico, and I'm @M_Blade. We want to thank logo designer and show friend Mike for his work on our wonderful logo. You can contact him for artwork via email at logomike80@gmail.com. That's logomike80@gmail.com. Thank you to Samuel Lemons for all original music on the show, especially our theme music. You can find Sam on Twitter @SamuelLemons, all one word, and his music on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Samuel-Lemons. Finally, our biggest thank you is to you, everyone, for listening. Rico and I really appreciate your time and look forward to bringing you another episode soon.
Riddikulus!